Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1185 of the War News Stream, and we have massive news yet again today. We are seeing that Russia and Ukraine are exchanging massive drone attacks on the capitals of each other's countries. Also, Pakistan is in the running once again and preparing new strikes on India, and also the Iranian nuclear talks have collapsed yet again as Israel prepares a massive strike. And of course, big news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have been able to hear over the course of the day that significant attacks have been conducted by drone forces of the armed forces of Ukraine, striking significant facilities throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation, resulting in a significant ammunition storage explosion near to the city of Krasnodar, one of the largest non-nuclear explosions that we have seen of the war. We have also been able to hear that a impact has been recorded inside the city of Rostov-on-Don, although exact damage assessments have not come out yet, at least at this point. We have also been able to hear that the Energia battery plant in Yelets in the Lipetsk Oblast of the Russian Federation has been severely hit and may have been completely destroyed through the fires that have ravaged the facility after the drone attacks from the state of Ukraine successfully hit their targets. Meanwhile, near to the area of Oriol, and specifically the small suburb of Narishkino, we were also able to hear that a Russian Mi-8 helicopter did crash in the area today under suspicious circumstances. We are not entirely sure what happened to the helicopter. It was not shot down, but it did crash within the area, and it appears that Russian air patrols were attempting to sweep the area and find the debris a little while later, which we do have proof and evidence of here on the channel. Meanwhile, inside of Moscow, we have been able to hear that the area of Kotelniki, just outside of the southern end of Lyubertsy, had significant fires raging through the area today, as it appears that industrial areas started to catch on fire within the city of Moscow. It is unknown whether these were caused by drones or some other form of sabotage. Meanwhile, outside of that, we were able to hear of ongoing hostile developments between NATO and the Russian Federation, as Polish air forces, specifically Polish Air Force F-16s were scrambled to intercept a Russian Su-24 that was operating dangerously near to the airspace of Poland and appeared to have been possibly attempting to violate the airspace several times over. Outside of that news, we've also been able to hear inside the state of Ukraine that Ukrainian armed forces have been defending against another massive drone attack by the Russian Federation that has been targeting multiple areas throughout the country, with video and picture evidence confirming that a large amount of these drones and also incoming air targets are being shot down by the Ukrainian armed forces. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces inside the Takhino area are continuing to hold their ground and levy Ukrainian air support to help them to continue to conduct their defensives, while we've also been able to hear that Ukrainian armed forces have been able to stop all Russian offensives occurring near Pokrovsk, Toretsk, and Chasiv Yar once again for another day in the same weeks in a row. While all of this has been going on in the actual war, the Russian Federation has stated that they are once again ready for peace, or ready to get it down around into the talks for peace, or really to give the Ukrainians a pamphlet to talk about how to get to peace. We were able to hear that Lavrov and the Russian Federation is right back to the old saying that the Ukrainians have to hold elections before the war is over for them to be able to talk to a legitimate government, because they do not consider the government of Ukraine to be one that is legitimate by any means. We can also hear that they are now demanding a new buffer zone. It is quite a small one, a modest one, and would not really cause any issues for the state of Ukraine or the United States of America in a negotiating position at large. We'll be talking about that one a little bit later tonight to tell you exactly what that one's including. It's an interesting one, to say the least. Meanwhile, we have also been able to hear inside of the area of Pakistan that it appears that the Pakistanis will now be preparing to conduct future attacks against the Republic of India, and I quote, terrorist forces within the Republic of India have been sponsoring and spurning separatist attacks inside of Pakistan, and the Pakistani government will be responding in turn by conducting their own strikes. There is a decent amount of news to cover today, and also, by the way, I forgot to include that the U.S. has officially condemned the Russian Federation for their invasion of Ukraine. There is a decent
that's a damn good show right there, I must say. A very good statement.
Quite a good statement indeed. But we have a decent amount of news today. While I just went through that little voice crack right there, really pushing the vocal limit. But nevertheless, we are going to be getting into all of this news tonight and getting you all of these sweet, precious details of what is going on out there in the world today that everyone has gathered around tonight to be able to hear. And so, moving us on into the news, we are going to be getting on into everything that we have. But before we do, folks, I've got to make sure to mention this because I've seen some people talking about it in the chat. We are terribly sorry if you are suffering audio issues this night on the stream. Unfortunately, YouTube has been suffering a severe amount of different kinds of crippling issues throughout their platform today, including, and not just cutting it out, but reporting that our video today that had 10,000 likes had 0 views, and also apparently cutting out audio issues on the stream. Unfortunately, the Enforcer Studio has absolutely no control over the YouTube platform and its ability to run properly. That largely is within California and held by the YouTube executives. That's generally their purview. If you would like to see if you can fix the audio issues or refreshing the page that the stream is on, would most likely be the best way to do that. Beyond that, telling us about it, unfortunately, it doesn't really do much but clog up the chat and stress us out unnecessarily over something that we unfortunately cannot fix. We are not able to fix the audio issues. That's something that's inherently an issue on the YouTube platform at the moment on a decent amount of live streams, and so all we can do is try and run the show the best we can and ask you all to refresh the page, but beyond that, there's not really much more that we can do about it. But moving on from that and into the major news of the day, we were able to hear that Ukrainian drone attacks had conducted significant amounts of damage to the Russian Federation over the course of the night, specifically around the area of Krasnodar, as we were able to hear that a significant ammunition explosion went up around here and appears to have destroyed a decent amount of supplies and munitions. Let me make sure to show you all the clip of the explosion that we had near Krasnodar. You can kind of already see it right here at the start of the clip, and it looks kind of like the star, what is it, the Death Star? Yeah, the Death Star blowing up in the movie Star Wars for A New Hope, and actually it looks just like it. So here's the clip.
Да я вижу дорогу!
Damn, son, looks nuclear.
Нормально все у нас? Да, здорово, все.
Газуй.
And say again, what was that? Like, what caused the huge explosion?
From what we understand, it was some sort of a Ukrainian drone attack that hit a soft shelter ammunition storage facility, and it caused a chain reaction that created a near nuclear-sized explosion.
Damn, must have been a lot of ammo or something. That was massive. That was like nuclear level.
From what we're assuming, it had to have been tens of thousands of tons of munitions that exploded in this facility right here. This explosion, to be entirely honest with y'all, it puts the one in the Oppenheimer movie, which I never saw because the movie was so boring I never made it to that part, but it had to put it to shame because this is a massive explosion. If we look at the scale of the thing, those little blips down there at the bottom of the mushroom cloud are trees that are a lot closer to the viewer than the epicenter of that explosion. And look how small those trees are looking compared to the explosion, and I'd assume that they're halfway between the explosion and the camera person. So you can get an idea that this mushroom cloud, within seconds of the explosion, had already reached probably a mile or higher into the atmosphere, and it's rapidly growing. It's giving us a good idea that the explosion was so strong, the thermal updraft is sending the mushroom cloud and all of the debris that just vaporized way up into the sky, and probably is quite visible even by satellite if there was a satellite orbiting in the daylight to be able to capture the residual smoke. This is something that is pretty crazy, but we can see that again right there.
Это уже снаряды, это сейчас все пойдет. Вот сейчас направо, прям поедем. Я знаю дороги.
Нет, не поеду, все нормально.
Охереть, крик.
And we can also see some continuing explosions happening in the ammunition facility. We can actually see them flashing off the bottom of the mushroom cloud right there. And there you can see it. Almost like a lightning storm in there.
Just massive, very devastating. A bad day for Russia indeed.
A bad day for Russia indeed. And this wasn't the only place where they had a bad day. We were able to confirm that a Neptune apparently hit Rostov-on-Don. The clip was deleted, apparently, so we're going to be getting rid of that one. And we're going to be moving on up to Yelets inside of the Lipetsk Oblast. Inside of the Lipetsk Oblast is a decent amount of cities, but one of the more important ones is the city of Yelets. The city of Yelets has a little battery production factory inside of it right here. And this little battery production facility on the Ulitsa Elektrikov Street produces electric batteries that are able to power a wide variety of Russia's weapons. They are able to give battery power for the computers to operate inside of Russia's drones, like the Garan 2. They also help to provide battery power or electrical power for computer systems on board missiles and other kinds of war materials and war resources that the Russian Federation has been using for a significant period of the war. We have been able to see that the Ukrainians did strike the Energia battery plant today in a series of multiple clips. I also got to say that the Putin Gopnik over here in the corner is pretty fitting because that's going to be about what Putin can afford once this war is over. But here's the first clip showing us the impact onto the Energia plant. Oh, well, that's the end of that clip.
Like I said, oh, at the very end of it.
That was me.
Oh, I thought that was in the video, man. It sounded like very real.
Well, it was real because, man, I'm so real. But we also get to see this clip right here of another attack. Well, the same attack from a different angle.
Говорит, мальчик, туши, ёпта!
Туши, ёпта!
Туши свет!
Oh my God.
Oh my!
Feeling out.
Man, that honestly at the end, man, sounded like a clip straight out of like O-Block and Chirac, man. Like really, it's like the drive-by squealing noise, the explosions. It really made me feel at home.
Rewind it. I want to see that little last part again. That was something.
Туши свет!
Oh, jeez. The Energia plant is pretty explosive, I must say.
Man, the Energia plant's keeping everyone around here energized like the Energizer Bunny. But we also got to see another clip of the attack and also the smoke rising from one of the first drone hits. Oh, and another little hit right there. Well, that's the end of the clip right there, but still nice to see. Moving on from that and on into our next clip inside the Oriol Oblast, we also got to see that something else happened that was also just wildly interesting today. It appears that it was a part of the Russian effort to defend against the Ukrainian drone attacks, but I don't really know what we can really describe about rather than a helicopter crashed. We were able to see that an Mi-8 helicopter that was in operation in the area of Narishkino crashed today, and this is the first clip that we had of the helicopter. You would think that that bird for a second was the helicopter. It definitely wasn't. But we could see the Mi-8 flying on over and then taking a very sharp turn, and we can see here that the helicopter has clearly lost control at that point and flipped. Like, you can actually see it right there. So watch this. You see him taking that turn. You can see the rear tail boom do this very weird yawing motion, and then all of a sudden the helicopter rights itself, and then right there you can see it violently rolled over onto its top side and then slammed into the ground. This next clip right here is actually showing the smoke from the burning debris of that helicopter.
Oh, wow. They don't have auto-rotate on these Mi-8 helicopters?
Man, what kind of helicopters do you think this is, huh? Man, these helicopters are old, like very old. The first Mi-8 was put into production in 1961.
Oh, wow. That is extremely old then.
Yeah, so, and also some people are going to be, no, it was manufactured, its introduction was 1967. No, actually they were produced from 1961 to the present day. So this thing is older than the Vietnam War. Like, that's how old this is. So this thing, actually, let me go pull up the UH-1, just to get y'all something that would be comparable here in America. This thing started production just about a year or two before the Mi-8 started production, just to give you all an idea of how old the Mi-8s really are. So none of that advanced technology you would think would be in a modern helicopter is in the Mi-8. This is not a modern helicopter. This thing is it's almost as old as the Soviet Union, or pretty much as old as, as old as the Kennedy administration. That's how old this helicopter is. So John F. Kennedy was alive to see one of these things in a picture at some point. But anyways, moving on from that, we were able to see the remains of the crash, or more so, the burning debris again here in this clip. Just make sure we cover all of our bases. And then moving on into our next clip here, we also got to see the remains of the crash on the ground. And that thing vaporized. It hit the ground hard enough that it pretty much blasted itself into pieces and then became a burning pyre. All 3 crew members on board the helicopter were killed in the crash, and we still really do not know what exactly caused the crash. It appears that it may have been mishandling by the helicopter crew, or it may have possibly been some sort of mechanical failure or maintenance oversight that led to the crash of the helicopter. Nevertheless, it occurred in the middle of the drone attack by the state of Ukraine earlier today, so it does seem that it is fairly likely that the Russian Federation may have sent up the helicopter to try and defend against some of the drones, and then it ended up conducting too evasive a maneuver and then went on down. We also were able to see an Su-35S flying over the area near to where the helicopter crashed later in the day, which we can see right here.
That's very helpful, I would assume. Sending over a fighter jet to do some recon.
It's like, he's like, we have firefighters on the ground saying that there's a helicopter burning. Send over a fighter jet to make sure. And then the fighter jet flies over. Yep, that's burning. Okay, good, we know now. It's like, we know for sure.
They were really coming in to finish the job, probably.
Man, they were coming in because there were some loose ends that needed to be tied. But we see the plane here from another angle. Flying pretty slow, mind you. And in our, well, actually, that is our last clip of the Su-35S there. But moving on out of the entire Mi-8 crash and on up into Moscow, we also were able to see that it appears that there was some significant fires that occurred within the industrial zones of Kaliningrad today. We're not really sure if these were brought on by Ukrainian drone attacks or whether these happened through some form of sabotage or workplace incompetence. But we were able to see significant fires breaking out in this area of Moscow.
Oh, wow, that really is right near Moscow. That's those are probably some bad chemicals coming out of that industrial site.
Man, you know the Russians are out there. Quick, huff it! Like, you know, like, oh, it tastes like a Texan.
Huff it.
Aw, man, that's where I'm at. Hot dog man. I took a whole 2 weeks off of my channel to go huff Russian industrial fumes. Aw, man.
And look at those guys standing so close to it right there, off to the left.
Yeah, see, it's hot dog man right down there.
That is crazy to stand that close to that.
I wouldn't stand anywhere near it. And you know, it's just an interesting thing to know how many attacks and how many fires and how much damage was caused throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation today. It appears that, at least in terms of ongoing fires or damage, it spanned all the way from Moscow all the way down to Krasnodar today, at least inside of the actual Russian Federation. And it's giving us a really clear idea, or at least a clear picture that the Russian Federation is not doing all too well with this whole the Ukrainians are attacking them with drones deal. It seems that they don't really have the part where they stop the Ukrainians from attacking them with drones down pat even 1,185 days into the war. So I would have to say, not a good look for the Russians, and this is coming at the exact same time as they have stated that they are ready for a peace. They are ready for one, folks. This time around, they truly are. Russia is ready to hand over a draft document on ending the war to Ukraine as soon as the prisoner exchange is complete. And there is an ongoing prisoner exchange that's happening right now, where Ukraine is transferring 1,000 prisoners for 1,000 prisoners back from the Russians. But before we get into all of this detail, because this is quite a lot to break down here, after Ukraine launched the largest drone attack on Moscow, Russia has done the same to Kyiv. And a lot of people have put in their thoughts on what has happened so far with that. And it appears that a lot of people are saying that these attacks will escalate quickly and will turn into a great deal of tumult for both sides, as the Russians don't really seem to have a lot of air defense, and the Ukrainians seem to have a lot of it, but once again, sometimes it is difficult to intercept all of the incoming drones. Some others are saying that these attacks are merely one-offs and they're not going to become a frequent occurrence. Others are saying that it seems like a bad sign, and others are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So it looks like 70% of the audience said these attacks will escalate very fast and turn into a big tit for tat, while 14% said these attacks are merely one-offs and it'll be once and done attacks. And 8% said it seems like a bad sign for the future between these two capitals. And I will say that considering that Ukraine launched the largest attack on Moscow of the war yesterday, and now Russia has followed up by actively attacking literally right now. They're still attacking Kyiv as we speak with ballistics and also drones as well. The only difference is Ukraine isn't targeting civilian targets inside of Moscow. They're hitting things that are military targets, but Russia's not doing the same. When they attack Kyiv, they are hitting actual civilian apartment buildings left and right with no discrimination whatsoever. So there is a bit of a difference, but the fact that Russia's launching one of their largest right now as we speak on Kyiv, and the basically the war between the capital cities, which is generally considered mainly off limits most of the time, now it seems to be a big focus on the capital. So I think this is going to escalate fast. This is something that affects the elite of both countries and also the government itself. So if this keeps up and they keep up a tit for tat in the capital, it is going to escalate pretty quick. So I'm with the 70%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to go with the 70% as well. I believe that these attacks are going to be escalating quickly, and we're most likely going to see that major drone attacks of both against both capital cities are going to become a fairly frequent occurrence. It does appear that at this point, the Ukrainians and Russians have already pretty much been in this exchange for several days at this point, as we have known the Ukrainian drones have attempted to attack and successfully have hit Moscow several days in a row, and at the exact same time, there's been large drone attacks being conducted by the Russians against Kyiv and other major cities throughout Ukraine during that exact same time, pretty much showing us that these attacks are already escalating at a wildly fast pace, and most likely will continue to on into the future. But that would be my opinion and my 2 cents on that. But it's time for us to move on into something else, a really big story of the night. While I also have to throw in this, because these kinds of things, they annoy me greatly, folks. They annoy me greatly. And I got to tell y'all about this because it's driving me wild, and it's more so of an administrative thing on our end of the channel, but it's a very annoying one to deal with. So YouTube today has had a very large glitch across most of their platform, and today they have literally just reported that my video that I put out got 0 views for about 6 hours. There was 9,000 likes on that thing when it got its first view, technically, according to YouTube today. It was driving me crazy today, and I thought that it was only going to exist on that alone, and apparently tonight, they're now not pushing out notifications for the live stream either, because we only have about 7,000 people here. That's a lot of people, but it's a little bit annoying to see that for some reason there's all of these massive glitches going on across YouTube, because, you know, we work incredibly hard on this thing, and it's a little bit annoying to see that despite all of our hard efforts, sometimes it just gets shorted because YouTube systems are messing up or down in some way or another. So a little bit interesting with that. But beyond that, it's something to know. That's really all I'm trying to say here. It's something to know. I just wanted to point that out to y'all because it annoys me. We have big news tonight, and hardly anyone's going to be here to hear it because a lot of people probably aren't even getting notifications of the stream right now. So a little bit annoying with that. Anyways, moving on from that, though, it is time for us to get on into some more pressing news. And to bring y'all right back to it, we were able to hear that the Russians are saying that they are ready to hand over a draft document on ending the war to Ukraine as soon as the prisoner exchange is complete. And that was according to Lavrov. But it already seems that we're getting a little bit of an idea here about what this is really going to mean. What is going to be in this pamphlet that they're going to be giving out to everyone in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian government? What is it going to say? Well, it appears that they're right back to saying that the Ukrainian government is illegitimate and they're going to have to run elections before they ever even talk to the Ukrainians truthfully about a peace agreement. So here's the statement by Lavrov from today saying that very thing.
Президент очень четко изложил нашу оценку легитимности, степени легитимности Зеленского и его режима. Но он подчеркнул при этом, что мы все равно не отказываемся от контактов с ним и с его администрацией для того, чтобы согласовать устраивающие всех принципы урегулирования. Другое дело, когда дойдет до подписания, вот там вопрос легитимности будет иметь решающее значение, потому что если подпишут те, чья легитимность, ну, мягко говоря, никого уже не убеждает, то сменщики могут поставить под сомнение достигнутую. Президент очень...
But we can see right there at the end, and let me make sure to bring y'all to this. The other thing is that when it comes to the signing, that's where the question of legitimacy will be crucial, because if those whose legitimacy, well, to put it mildly, no longer convinces anyone signing, then the substitutes can question the agreement reached. Pretty much in short saying that no matter what, they're never going to recognize an agreement that they make with the state of Ukraine because they are claiming that the Ukrainian government is completely illegitimate. That is something that is once again showing us that there is no way to negotiate with the Russian Federation, because they're not even going to view the Ukrainian government currently in power right now as the legitimate government, although by every legal definition, the Ukrainian government right now that is existing under Zelenskyy is 100% a legitimate government and is existing within the frameworks and parameters of the laws of the state of Ukraine. Another interesting thing that I have to point out before we even get on into the rest of what the peace is going to look like is, isn't it a little funny that Lavrov is going to say that the Ukrainian government might be illegitimate and people are going to question the legitimacy of their democracy when Ukraine has had multiple presidents from the year 2000 to 2025, and if you look at the Russian Federation, Putin has won every single election since the year 2000 with about a 90% majority in the vote. Every single year. Isn't that kind of really more so where the illegitimate government lies? Because I brought this example up earlier today in my video, but isn't it a little bit stupid to pretend like someone like Putin could be popular for 25 years since taking the office of the president? And in fact, his popularity hasn't even waned. His popularity is actually higher than it's ever been, at least according to the last election. That is absolutely ridiculous. Just to give you all an example, probably one of the longest serving people in a modern democracy that I can think of is from the United Kingdom, and that would be Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher was a prime minister from the late 70s on into the early 90s. An incredibly long track record for a British prime minister. Some of them don't even survive a couple of months. You know, look at Liz Truss. She lasted, I think, 2 months. Some of them, at least in Britain, they don't serve a permanent term. To be able to continue on as prime minister, you actually have to have the faith of the public for the large part, and not only that, you have to have the backing of your political party. There is a lot of politicking that goes on in the British Parliament to be able to try and maintain the position of prime minister. And the fact that that was one of the longest served prime ministers in the 20th and 21st centuries, without a doubt, not saying if she was good or not, that's up to everyone else, and we don't want to know y'all's opinion on that as well, because we're not into politics here, but beyond that, that is one of the longest serving prime ministers that would ever exist, at least in the modern era. So what the Russians are saying is that Putin is more popular than one of the longest serving prime ministers in the United Kingdom, which is Margaret Thatcher. And Margaret Thatcher didn't stop being prime minister because she died. She got ousted by her own party because she stopped being popular with them, and she stopped being popular with the public as well. And so they started losing seats. So her own party ousted her and replaced her with another prime minister. And so what Putin is saying, and what the Russian government is saying, is that our country is an enigma. It is a legitimately democratically elected government, although Putin is more popular now 25 years later than he ever was when he actually took office. That is just a complete farce. There's no way that that could be a reality. No one remains that popular for that long. Like that's just not the truth of it. I mean, hell, think of any president that has been in charge of the United States for the past 20 years and tell me, folks, could you imagine any of them being popular for 25 straight years and winning election after election to be the president? The answer to that is no. None of them are popular enough to do that. Some of them have a really hard time, most of them have a really hard time even getting to a second term, much less anything farther than that if they could. So it's an absolutely ridiculous assessment to say that Putin's government is a legitimate one, and he's only by coincidence been elected pretty much consecutively for all of the terms of president of Russia since the year 2000. It's a ridiculous kind of an assertion. But beyond that, the Russians are now moving on, outside of questioning the legitimacy of the Ukrainian government, to now putting out some new demands for the buffer zone. Many of y'all will know that Putin announced the other day that the Russian Federation is going to be conducting a major offensive to create a sanitary zone around the areas of Chernihiv, Sumy, and Kharkiv. A Russian general has come out today, and he's now giving out the exact parameters for where this buffer zone is going to end. So let me make sure to get y'all the list. The buffer zone, according to Russian General Sobolev, who made a statement on this today, in front of a banner for the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, oddly enough, stated that the buffer zone will cover all of the following oblasts: Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and Sumy. Let's play a game, folks. I'm going to pull out my magic marker here, and we're going to highlight the borders of Odessa, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, Sumy, and Chernihiv. So let's start down here at the border of the Odessa Oblast, and we're going to make it very quick and easy, because I want to make sure that we make the point well. So let me make sure that we just get to drawing, the fun of drawing, the love of drawing, and their border is actually right here, so we'll just backtrack right there and continue on. I always get mixed up on the Odessa Mykolaiv border in that area. It's a little bit hard to see, at least on this map, but let me make sure that we just measure this out right, because we don't want to measure it wrongly, folks. We want to make sure that it is exactly right, because we just want to show y'all what the fair claims from the Russian Federation really are. And they're also saying that they'll be able to take this amount of land and hold it for the large part, because this is what the offensive is aiming to achieve, is to create this nice little comfy buffer zone. So I just want to make sure that we do not deny a guest even the most ridiculous request, and that we make sure to show the entirety of the area that they are going to control, because the Russian Federation is never denied any of their demands, and the Russian army can easily sweep the Ukrainians out of the way, because they've only been toying with the Ukrainians for this long, and they're going to be taking the remainder of this land outright, I tell you. Outright, I says. And so let me make sure that we draw this up accurately. We're finally to the Sumy Oblast at this point, just making our way around their borders. It's a fairly mundane task. It's quite a small area that the Russians are demanding. And actually, I got to backtrack, because that is actually the Chernihiv Oblast border right there that I was starting to draw. So we need to backtrack, and then just make our way around here, and then up this way, and then about right here, and then just right out to the outskirts of Kyiv, right to around Brovary. It's not that much. And then we just kind of skirt around Kyiv, and then we make our way on up into the Sea of Kyiv, and into the middle of the Sea of Kyiv, and then to the Belarusian border. Now, let's put the buffer zone on that. Let's just make sure to label that, because labeling is important, folks. And then we make sure to put that in orange. And this whole area east of that line is what they're claiming they're going to get.
Well, that's not a buffer zone. That's just basically the summer offensive goals, it looks like.
That's basically an annexation of half of Ukraine, all the way up to the Dnieper River and even beyond it at this point.
Yeah, they're not going to be taking that. And to call it a buffer zone is silly. But it's just like, if that's their buffer zone, then what are they planning to do for the summer offensive they keep hyping up? Because this right here is like even more ambitious than the summer offensive would ever be.
This is absolutely insane. Like, it really is an insane proposition, because we did the math the other day, and for them to even try and take the Sumy, Kharkiv, and the Chernihiv Oblast, I had to try and remember the name there, we calculated that it would take them about 1 million men based off the intensity of the combat that's going on around Pokrovsk right now in that same area of battlefield, how much volume makes up that front line, and how many troops would in turn be needed. And just to take the Chernihiv, Sumy, and Kharkiv Oblasts, it would take about 1 million men. And now they're also saying that they're going to be able to cross the Dnipro River, which they've never been able to do so far, and then take Kryvyi Rih, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Zaporizhia, and the city of Dnipro. That is just, it's an insane proposition. They would never be able to complete this. This will never be done. It will never succeed. But this is a little bit of an opposite direction than moving towards peace. Wouldn't y'all agree, folks? This is the complete opposite direction than saying we're heading towards some sort of a peaceful resolution of the war. This is actually moving from we want Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson and the rest of it that we don't control to we want the rest of the half of Ukraine that we don't have yet. That's just absolutely insane. There's no way that this is going to be going forward, and this is a absolutely unreasonable demand by the Russians, and it's an unreasonable idea for the large part that the Russian Federation thinks that they could even take this kind of land, considering that they're having a hard time just pushing one village up to get closer to the city of Pokrovsk. So I would have to say I'm largely doubting that they'd ever be able to achieve any of that, and this is all just wishful thinking or insanity on the Russian government's end. But beyond that, Russia does say that, Lavrov says that Russia is ready to provide a draft agreement to end the war after the Ukrainian POW exchange. And now that we've laid out what the Russians are saying the buffer zone is going to look like, what are your thoughts on this idea of Lavrov's that Russia is ready for peace? Do y'all think it's going to be completely unreasonable? Do y'all think it will be mildly acceptable, or is it some sort of a bait and switch? So Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so 65% of the audience said it will be totally unreasonable, this agreement that Lavrov's going to provide, while 23% said it sounds like a bait and switch tactic by Russia, and 7% said it'll be mildly acceptable. And considering the fact that they're about to try to annex at least half of Ukraine that they don't have, or at least that's what they're publicly stating, even though they'll never accomplish that, then obviously this draft agreement is going to be totally unacceptable. It's going to be totally unreasonable, like everything Russia's proposed up to this point. So I'm definitely with the 66%. And also there is a bait and switch element to this because they made a contingent on making this POW exchange, the 1,000 for 1,000 soldiers, the 1,000 Russians for 1,000 Ukrainians. And I believe the Ukrainians are going to do that anyway because they want their guys back and they don't care about giving over the 1,000 Russians. They could really care less. They just want their guys back. So they were making a contingent on that, and that was a bit of a bait and switch because now the draft agreement is going to be total bogus that Lavrov gives over, and there's no inclination whatsoever that Russia's backing down. Like it's just not a mystery at this point. So I'm with the 66%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm with the 66% as well. This is going to be entirely unreasonable because the Russians went from give us the rest of the oblasts that we partially control right now and also demilitarize, and then we'll get into peace talks, to now they're going to say give us pretty much half of Ukraine and also demilitarize and also hold an election that the Russians will interfere in, and also an election that most of the Ukrainian citizenry won't even be able to vote in, and then we'll finally actually have some talks about peace. It's absolutely absurd. This is going nowhere. And I think that the United States ought to start working on that because another interesting thing, Matthew, that's kind of leading into my theory yesterday that the Russians are doing this to pretty much tell the Americans to get lost in negotiations is don't you notice that the area that the Russians are claiming is exactly the area that most of the Ukrainian rare earths are in?
Yeah, a little bit. Honestly, though, I don't think they're trying to tell us to get lost. I just think they're doing what they want because they realize that there is no real red line that the United States is drawing diplomatically. We seem to be just pushing the red line back as we keep getting basically pushed along like punks at this point. And I think they're just doing what they want because at this point, they basically told the United States to piss off more times than I can count on two hands. So if we haven't pissed off by now, then I'm not sure if we ever will.
I have to say, we don't need to piss off. We need to get pissed off because I think we need to start treating the Russians like they deserve to be treated, which is like a whole bunch of stupid idiots for the large part because this is a pretty stupid proposition. Next thing you know, though, I'm promising you this one, Matthew. They're going to be demanding all of the Poltava Oblast because why not? Why not make the border a clean flush down the Dnipro River and also have some on the other side of the river to start another offensive from in the future?
Yeah.
That's what the Russians are really
also-
going to demand.
And also another thing, like you did say just a moment ago about the mineral deal, we do have that mineral deal in place now. So the United States was making a big point about now we have an economic interest in assisting Ukraine in their fight, at least to defend themselves, by trying to hold on to these minerals that were given over by Ukraine to this big pot that's now been agreed to between Ukraine and the United States. So with most of the minerals being in the area that Russia wants to take, this is the time that the United States can either prove or disprove the whole idea of an economic incentive to help Ukraine. Because if we don't jump in now and start, warding off the Russians, then I'm not sure if we ever will. And also, it's like, what was the whole point of that? The big runaround with the mineral deal for not even going to defend the area where the minerals are at? That wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah, I would have. It's just none of it makes sense at this point on a diplomatic face. It's just it really is just we do something and then we just completely drop it and then leave it to pretty much crash and burn, and that's just what we do, wash, rinse, and repeat on everything. So it's like, when are we actually going to get behind supporting our supposed interest that we now have in Ukraine through the rare earths and start supporting the state of Ukraine instead of, doing something else instead, like, doing a gotcha on a foreign leader in the Oval Office? Is like, don't we have more pressing things to do right now, like protecting our American interests that we now claim to have inside of Ukraine because of the rare earths deal? I feel like that would be a better approach, or a better waste of our time than whatever's happened recently. But anyways, moving on from that and moving on from those Russian demands, I gotta tell y'all that the Russians are making some pretty big demands, and it looks like they're about to catch the hands, because we've also been able to see that the Ukrainian armed forces have also been defending their skies quite significantly today as well. We were able to get a video of a Ukrainian F-16 downing a drone with an AIM-9, and take a look at this. We can hear the drone. Oh, there goes the missile.
Oh!
Да?
Da?
Да. But anyways, moving on from that clip and on into our next one, we also got to see another Shahed getting shot down as well. This is a longer clip of the F-16 shooting it down.
Do I hear roosters? Wait a minute, that's actually a siren, never mind.
And there's the missile again. But then we're going to really get to watch the drone go down.
Да?
Da?
Duh. And now we can finally hear the sound of the missile and the impact.
Молодец, блядь.
Молодец, блядь.
Молодец, дивися, паде на копанки.
And here comes the Shahed like a burning fireball in the sky. Look, a shooting star. Quick, make a wish.
Oh, look, it's the Iranians' beautiful piece of equipment going down toward the earth.
Duh. Man, I got a question.
Yes.
Nah. but yeah, like when they read, like, this is not a religious thing, folks, but I gotta bring this up because it actually hit me and it was kind of funny. When they read the Bible in like Ukraine or Russia, considering that the word yes is da in both languages, it's like when they get to the part where like and on the seventh day it was good, it's like, and on the seventh day it was da. It's like, do they put that in the Bible? Like, I don't know. But
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know.
Actually, I think that'd be hard to show or something like that. Anyways, moving on from that and on into the area around Kyiv, we did get to hear the air defense report was quite significant, as 176 Russian drones and also a missile were launched into the territory of Ukraine overnight. 91 drones were shot down directly by ground air defense fire, while another 59 were down through electronic warfare means. Quite a large number, as a matter of fact. It actually appears that only about 20 or so drones and missiles made it through the air defense to hit their targets, meaning that the interception rate was incredibly high, somewhere around 90% or a little bit lower than that. Beyond that, it does appear that the state of Ukraine was able to defend against the attack at large last night. And I also got to say, Matthew, it is something to see that the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians launched 176 drones and a couple of missiles, and then the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians launched like 500 drones into their airspace overnight, which is just not even true. It's like, it's not even possible. It's not even reality. These people need to get their heads out of their asses and live in the real world for a little bit. But anyways, moving on from that air defense report, it is time for us to move on to something else that is outside of Ukraine and in the Baltic Sea, near to Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad. Oh, Kaliningrad. It's an interesting place. It's an interesting place because it's one of the few places in the entirety of Europe that actually burns a significant amount of coal for residential heating purposes. Did y'all know that?
I did not know that, no.
Yes. Back in the day before we had centralized heating and air, or otherwise as we call it, HVAC systems or air conditioning here in America, in most of the world, the way that you would heat your house is through a coal furnace. Those were quite common back in the day, and a lot of people would always use them to heat their homes because it was a clean way to heat it, and the heat was oh so good. Nowadays, a lot of people have moved on to electrical heating and cooling, or something similar along those lines, or at least throughout most of Europe, there isn't really a lot of electrical cooling or air conditioning, but there is a lot of electrical heating. Kaliningrad's one of the few places that doesn't have any kind of electrical heating for the large part, or any kind of centralized heating systems that would help to provide heat to the entirety of the city. So in Kaliningrad, there's still a very big market for coal. For residential consumers, and they still buy coal in sacks, and they bring it back to their house, and they throw the coal into the coal stove to heat their houses. I'm not even kidding. If you actually go look at the coal emissions in Europe, Kaliningrad is a giant glowing mark on that map because of all the residential coal consumption in the city. But beyond that, Kaliningrad isn't just a backwards-ass shithole, like I've just taken about 10 minutes to explain. It also is a significant area that the Russian Federation uses to build up troops that can threaten the Polish and Lithuanian states and also the Suwalki Gap directly. And we have been able to see that today, Polish Air Force aircraft were scrambled to intercept a Russian Su-24 bomber over the Baltic Sea. The Polish defense minister did confirm this. The Russians performed, and I quote, dangerous and intentional maneuvers, posing a threat to regional airspace safety near the Kaliningrad exclave. Once again showing us that the Russian Federation is conducting more hostile actions against the West, at least with their aircraft, as much as they can, without directly starting a war. And it does appear that the Polish had to respond, and it became a fairly considerable incident, although no shots were fired, and of course neither aircraft caused any damage to each other. Still, it is showing us that the Russian Federation is continuing to try and poke and prod at the West and the collective of NATO, and it may be one time too many that they might mess around and they might find out something a little bit unfortunate for them, I suppose. But nevertheless, that was the story from Kaliningrad today, and moving on out of that area and on down into the lands of Pakistan and India, it's time for us to get down here into the news. We have one piece. We have been able to hear that the Pakistani government is now considering airstrikes against militants in Indian territory. According to the information that we have been able to hear the Pakistan Armed Forces are reportedly planning to carry out airstrikes deep into India, targeting armed groups following recent suicide terrorist attacks inside of Pakistan. It does appear that there has been some ongoing attacks inside of Pakistan, similar to those that occurred at Pahalgam inside of the Jammu and Kashmir region. It kicked off the major conflict, or Operation Sindoor, between the Republic of India and Pakistan. And now appears that the reverse has happened in Pakistan, and the Pakistanis will now be responding by striking India in turn. It appears that at this moment, there may be a little bit of a new conflict that might brew up on the Indian subcontinent between the two, and we cannot wait to cover it so that way we can have 9 gazillion Indian Pakistani bots come into our live chat and tell us that we're wrong on everything, and that India and Pakistan are the greatest countries on the planet. But beyond that, Pakistan is reportedly preparing new deep strikes into India, which may restart the conflict, and many people are putting in their thoughts, and it appears that a significant amount of people are saying that Pakistan will attack again soon. Others are saying that the Pakistanis are just yapping about it, because we all know that the Pakistanis and the Indians like to yap. We've also been able to hear that only time will tell on this one, because, you know, everyone's a little bit undecided, and while it sounds like it might be a big thing, it might not end up being a big thing, and others are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well, considering that it appears that, I don't know what the Pakistani version of the Operation Sindoor would be called, Operation, I don't even know. Operation something, I suppose, will be beginning soon. Do you think it's going to happen, or do you think it's not going to happen?
So it looks like 58% of the audience said Pakistan will attack again soon, while 23% said Pakistan is just yapping about it, and 16% said only time's going to tell on this. And honestly, on this one, I'm actually going to have to stray away from the majority. I think Pakistan is just yapping, because even though Pakistan had a slight advantage over India, because of course a lot of Indian fighter jets crashed when they got into these notorious dogfights over the Kashmir region, a lot of the Indian jets crashed. And a lot of people said, oh, that must mean the Chinese jets that Pakistan has are really good. Or it could mean that the Indian pilots are not trained well. And it turns out the Indian pilots are probably one of the least trained groups of pilots on the planet. So that's probably why they crashed. They weren't trained that well. So Pakistan had a slight advantage. But at the same time, though, they don't want Modi to come back out and say, we will find and punish the Pakistanis. They don't want that to happen, because Modi actually might get ramped up enough to actually strike Pakistan hard and strike them fast, which would not be good for either side. So I think they're just yapping. They're not going to restart the entire conflict over, I don't even know really why they're trying to restart the whole thing at this point, just for the hell of it, I guess. To me, it sounds like a lot of bluster. So I'm with a 25%. But Enforcer, what say you?
We will find, drag, and punish But beyond that, I think I would have to say that I would agree with Matthew, actually. I'd have to be with a minority on this one. I think that Pakistan is yapping. We all know, let's just be honest here, folks. Pakistan and India, on a governmental level, and also on like the internet level, like to yap about how great their countries are. Like if you listen to to someone from either of those countries, you would swear that India and Pakistan was running the whole world. Like they pretend like both those countries are superpowers. And I have to say, India is getting there slowly yet surely. But it's still a pretty good ways away, and it sure as hell isn't one now. I mean, they forgot to close, just to kind of give a little bit of a small story here. India launched a new submarine a while ago. This is kind of like a North Korean ship launch fail story. They launched a submarine successfully, and then when they went to dive, they forgot to close one of the hatches on the top side of the submarine, and it caused the submarine to flood, and the submarine was lost. Just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of the teething pains that they're having trying to become a superpower. So I would say they're not really there yet. So I would have to say that both of them are most likely yapping, at least in my opinion. Pakistan is yapping because they want to save face. I don't really think they're going to follow through with it, and I don't really think they're going to be conducting attacks on India, because the truth is that beyond the rash and wildly stupid decision for the Pakistanis to sponsor a terrorist attack in India, and then for India to cut off Pakistan's water and then also start bombing them, nobody in there really wants to get into a full-scale conflict, because both sides probably have a fairly good understanding that it would be pretty nasty if it does get back into a full-scale conflict. So with that in mind, I'd have to say I think they're just yapping, and I don't really think this is going to turn into all that much. But still, it's an interesting way to yap. It's kind of the same way that the North Koreans yap against the wicked imperialist Americans here in the United States. They're always talking about they're going to burn the U.S. Capitol to the ground, and so far I haven't seen it burn to the ground. It's looking fairly intact to me. Also,
but they did burn their destroyer to the ground, though. That's for
sure. Man, they sat there and said, "We're going to burn them to the ground." And they said, how? By burning ourselves. And then they dropped that destroyer into the water.
Man, I tell you what, I think they teach about that in Juche. They say, what you wish upon the others, it comes back to yourself. And guess what? It came right back to them. Their prize destroyer went down right in front of their face. And I think effectively today, they've gotten it fully covered with tarps. So congratulations to North Korea. They finished the task.
You know, it's kind of ironic, Matthew, how North Korea says that they're a country of decency and they're not into people who are like twerking or flinging their ass around, because I'm pretty sure they flung the ass of that ship around on the bottom of that harbor and ruined it. Like they did it so hard. You know, it's like, I don't really think they're that upstanding of a country, because that ship did a very immoral act on the bottom of that harbor that's apparently called Ohang.
They had that frigate out there throwing it back.
Man, they said, man, are you from North Korea? The way you back that shit up? God. Oh, man. Dude, they call...
Man, you must be from Iraq, the way you back that ass up. Damn.
Dude, they renamed the harbor in honor of the crash because in the honor of the sinking, because after the ship flipped over and fell into that harbor, they asked Kim Jong-un, what should we do? And he said, oh, hang him. And then so they renamed the harbor Oh Hang.
Oh dear.
Man, I'm telling you, man. And the Chongjin Youth Park, that's looking pretty desolate to me.
Yeah, the youth, they're resorting to crime after this.
What is this? So they got all these markers here, and then we don't get to know squat about it. What is... I don't understand. Is that a pond, or is that concrete? Or is that like a mix of water and concrete? There's like an experiments building where they like conduct experiments on the youth here on this small island. So it's like, what is this really? This ain't no youth park, that's for sure. I'm really confused. What are these? Are these like nuclear centrifuges? This one's like hardly even complete.
For the youth to go learn about science up close. Go walk in the reactor, son.
Man, that's they call that the Youth Scientific Experiment Center. That's not where the kids learn about science. It's where they have science experimented on them. And also, these buildings are missing their roofs. Like the roofs are literally caving in back here. What a place!
Juche teaches them about this. Sometimes you may not have a full roof over your head, but at least you have scraps.
You may not have a roof over your head, but the beaming light and love of the party and Kim Jong-un will keep you warm as the rain falls onto your cheeks and hides away your tears as you cry because you have nothing. You have no food, no possessions, not even a literal roof over your head, but you still have the party, and Kim Jong-un has you to expend at some moment of convenience.
You also know another thing that Juche teaches is along this demarcation line right here. On the right, you have the side that's been a nuclear wasteland. On the left, you have a side that's still got some sunlight. They haven't hit the nuclear winter yet.
Man, have you seen those propaganda clips that North Korea is putting out? It's like this yuppie looking white dude, and he's running through Pyongyang everywhere. Have you seen them? And they're like playing
No.
the song praising Kim Jong Un. He's like high-fiving North Koreans as he runs past them. Every single time, the sun is never shining. It's like the most overcast, depressing-looking place I've ever seen. And this like, where did they even find this guy? And it's like, secondly, why is he running around acting like it's a wonderful place? Like, I don't really get the whole propaganda spin with that one. Because, like, I don't know if y'all know this, but they're racist. Like, the North Korean people are racist. They teach them that the Korean people as a race are racially superior to everyone on the planet. So if you are not a Korean, or specifically a North Korean, and you go to Korea and you live there, you're not even allowed to marry anyone from North Korea that is North Korean. Because they call that race mixing, and they say that that is against Juche ideology. It's like, so they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to encourage, like, Caucasian whites to move to North Korea. It's like, they're not even welcome there, really. So what's the point of the propaganda? I just don't understand it. So a little bit goofy to me, but hey, not stopping him from trying. And the guy's in Pyongyang, so apparently he's some sort of like a high-level defector, I'm guessing, from somewhere that they're using, because he's in the capital city, so he's in the loyal class, apparently. But anyways.
Oh, they have an embassy of Egypt in Pyongyang, I just saw. I didn't know Egypt had an embassy there.
Where?
Zoom in toward zoom in. There it is, right there. Embassy of Egypt on the right. Right next to the Raman Central Mosque. I didn't know they had a mosque in North Korea either.
Where? Oh my, what? Oh shoot,
Is
it
that
really
really?
is a mosque. Yeah, look, it's got the minarets and everything.
I thought that went strongly against Juche. I thought you were supposed to. Oh, that's. So wait a minute. Since when did they have Muslims in North Korea?
I think
Is
this
this
might.
real or is this jokes?
I think this is something for show. I don't think this is a real thing, because they also claim that they have Christians, but Christians are persecuted in the country. So,
What about the embassy? Embassy of Romania, embassy of Egypt. Is that real?
is it
Oh.
real? There's a Swiss cooperation office here.
Huh.
Like, for these to technically be the embassies, they sure are looking run down.
Yeah, I'm not buying this really. Like embassy of Egypt. Like let me pull that up real quick. Does Egypt have an embassy in Pyongyang? Because I was not aware of this. Egypt does have an embassy in Pyongyang. We'll see. Are there mosques in North Korea? I want to know if that's a joke. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There is one known mosque in North Korea, and it's the one we just looked at, located within the Iranian embassy in Pyongyang. Okay, so embassies
Oh.
are technically sovereign soil, or I'm not sure if North Korea adheres to that or not, but typically around the world, embassies are sovereign to Iran, if that's Iran's embassy right there. So that's why there's a mosque there, because that's Iranian soil that the embassy is sitting on, and they have a mosque there. But typically that is very much against Juche ideology to have religion in their country, any religion, not just Islamic religion, but any of them. That's very, very much frowned upon. In fact, that'll get you put to death in North Korea.
Did you see the Jesus statue they made in North Korea?
Uh-uh.
Oh my god, you got to see this dude. I don't like. Apparently, they were believing that Jesus wasn't the way; he was drinking whey or something, because he's freaking jacked.
That's heresy.
Yeah, it pretty much is. But this is the state approved version of a crucifix in North Korea. It's that one. That's the only one in the whole country, and that's the one. Like, so if you technically are a Christian in North Korea, which really isn't allowed, but let's say that it was allowed, and you wanted to get a crucifix, you have to get the specific version of it, and like, that is the most jacked body I've ever seen. He's got like 21 abs. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. Like, that doesn't even look like Jesus. That looks like a gym bro up there. Like I don't even understand what that is, but that's what they have in North Korea. But it's all more for show. Like, if this is the only mosque in North Korea and it's on the Iranian embassy's property, that tells you a lot. That's not a real symbol of religious freedom. It's more so for show. And they probably allowed Iran to set it up so that way they could say, look, there's religious freedom here. We have a mosque, but it's really more so for the Iranian embassy than it is for the actual North Koreans. But Anyways,
I'm not even sure why they would have embassies of any country in North Korea, because it's not like your citizens can go there, because they're not going to allow them just to show up. And also, number two, it's like, what kind of relations are they really having with North Korea? Because they only deal in illicit things.
yeah, I don't really know. And also, like, why are the only countries I can tell that have an embassy in North Korea is the embassy of Romania. There's the Swiss Cooperation Office, but the Swiss are neutral, so that makes sense. And then the embassy of Egypt. So it's like, why is Egypt and Romania the only ones who have embassies, from what I can tell? Because I would suppose this is Embassy Row, and there's no other embassies here but those two. So it's like, why? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
What is the supermarket? They haven't. Of course, they have no pictures of anything. I should expect that. But they do have the party founding monument pictures, because you have to have those pictures for great Juche ideology. And in North Korea, folks, they made a distinction unlike others. They have the hammer for the worker. They have it's just kind of like the Korean version of a sickle. I forgot the specific name for their version. But that's pretty much the sickle for North Korea. And then in the middle, they have a paintbrush for the artists. They're unlike other communists because they actually recognize artists in their symbology. But then, according to Juche ideology, art in any form of medium or medium of art is solely existent for the glorification of the state. That is literally the only reason for art in the country. So if you do anything that isn't glorifying the state as artistry in North Korea, it's actually an imprisonable offense. You can get sent to a labor camp for that. But here's the inside of the monument. I'm sure no one's ever shown you all that before. Down here on the inner ring of this monument, right down here at the bottom, they actually have this giant monument, pretty much showing all of the soldiers and workers of Korea fighting against a wicked imperialist. And they also have the symbol of the Workers' Party of Korea again right there. But it's a little bit interesting, because you would think, and this is something else that's very interesting about communist countries, because they have this giant monument to the Workers' Party of Korea right here, which is called the Party Founding Monument, that it's a one-party country. But what if I told you all that there technically were different political parties in North Korea? Did you know that, Matthew?
I didn't. I actually did know that, but I don't really know how they actually function.
So, they're all puppets.
Oh, look at that. They got the Chondoist Chongu Party. That's a winner. They got the Chongryon. That's a real loser. They got the Korean Social Democratic Party. Oh, look, the Dems. Unless the Workers' Party of Korea. That's the winning party right there. I tell you what.
I gotta tell you, man, both of these parties, the Korean Social Democrat Party, this one actually existed before North Korea existed. It actually was a party inside of the Kingdom of Korea back when it existed. So a little bit, well,
one thing I'm not noticing in North Korea, apparently, apparently Republicans don't fit into the Juche.
Notice how all of them, man, are some form of like socialist or communism. It's like, where are the more conservative options? None. It's like it's just man, they said call this thing NASCAR because we turned in this bitch left, and they went all the way to communism. It's like, bro, it's an interesting thing because these parties only exist on paper. They actually do not exist. They have to vote the exact way of the Workers' Party of Korea, or their members will be punished.
I'll scroll down to you. Look at the former parties. These are the parties that, oh, look, the Dongro People's Party, Dongro Imendang. Well, dang, they went out of business. Let's see here. The Democratic Independent Party. Oh, they had independence, but they went by the wayside. Looks like a few decades ago. Let's see. Korea Buddhist Federation. That makes sense why that one went away. The Gonmin People's Alliance, also known as the Union of the People's Masses. Sounds very nice. Also went away a long time ago. Scroll on down. Oh, look, there's the Republic Party. They used to have the Republic Party back in 1948 to 1967. Rest in peace. Also, the Laboring People's Party, as opposed to the Workers' Party. No difference at all. They call them the Kulo Imendang. And dang, they went bye-bye. Let's see. They also had dissolved parties. The Communist Party of Korea. It's kind of interesting to dissolve that, considering they're a communist. Workers' Party of North Korea. Isn't that one still the main party?
Well, they merged with another group.
Okay, and then they got the New People's Party of Korea. There's no new people in Korea, so that's why that one went away.
And also, one other thing that's really interesting, man, is like this party right here, the Gonmin People's Alliance. The last seat they had was in 1962. So I guess all of their supporters were like, where did our last representative go? And the leader went, gone, mine ho! Like, it's like, man, it's like,
Man.
Gone Min Ho, Gone Mine Ho, you know?
Gone Minho, Imendang.
Man, Imendang, Minju Tong Nip Dang. That sounds really bad right there. But anyways, with that, y'all can see quite clearly that North Korea truly is a democracy because there is differences in choice. You could choose the ruling party, the not ruling party that's subordinate to the ruling party, or the other non-ruling party that's also subordinate to the ruling party and really has no choice in the country. This is actually the way all parties existed in communist countries. Like if I pulled up the political parties of East Germany, y'all will see the same thing. Because none of these parties technically oh dang it. How many political let me type it in again. Political parties in East Germany. Let me go get that. So let me show you all this. Let's see. What? They don't have the list of parties here? Just like a simple list? What? No way. No way. That's crazy. That's crazy right there. Let me see. Political parties. Here we go. Maybe this will get it. They don't have them in an easy readable list. They technically had 11 political parties, but the Communist Party of East Germany, or the People's Democratic Party of East Germany, or something along those lines, was the ruling party as written in the Constitution. So no other party could be in charge of the country, and also the numbers were rigged every single election. So it's like that in every communist country. Anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on into some more news outside of the whole jokes on the North Koreans, which are always fun, and we always love to joke on the North Koreans. But moving on from that and on into the rest of the news for the night, we have to get on down into the actual state of Ukraine itself and talk about that ongoing war on the ground. But before we do, we got to make sure to get a couple of questions. So what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
So let's jump into our first super chat question of the night. And this one goes to Cynthia R., who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Cynthia, for that $20 support. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And Cynthia said, LSA, and thank you guys for the hard work and LSA.
And thank you for enjoying the hard work. We put in work every single night. We put in that work and putting in the hours to make sure that y'all are able to get the news every night. I thank you for appreciating it massively and throwing in some kind words to show it. Because today has been a long and tiresome day. A day of 1,000 miles, I'd say. Because we first put out a video today that has gotten practically no views, at least according to YouTube. On my dashboard, it's telling me it got 34,000 views. In reality, at least according to what the video is saying, it actually got about 125 right now. That was annoying to deal with. It's apparently a global glitch. Then we came on here tonight, onto the stream, and apparently YouTube didn't send out notifications. And also it's Memorial Day weekend at the same time, so that's a double whammy. So not a lot of people came onto the stream tonight, at least in overall number. We had, I think, 7.6 thousand at the peak. Usually we get somewhere around 9 to 10,000 people on at a night. And nevertheless, we keep soldiering on. We keep putting out the videos. We keep putting out the news, because no matter what, it is about making sure that this thing runs every single day for the folks who are able to be here and enjoy this stuff. And I got to thank you massively once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you who went out of their way to support this channel and make this thing a reality, we wouldn't have been able to be here today right now, and we wouldn't have been able to be here for thousands of days in the past to be able to keep this thing rolling well on into the present day and hopefully well on into the future, thanks to support like yours. So a huge thank you to you once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And also, Larwar is saying that the video I made today is apparently at 196,000, and others are saying that it's 117. I'm getting every number under the sun, because at least when I just checked, it was saying 125, somewhere around there. So I'll have to go back and look again, and let me go look on my phone. What number is it saying on my phone? Let me go look. Hold on, folks. We're going to get down to the bottom of this. And on my phone, it is saying that it's gotten 118,000 views. So literally everywhere is saying a different number right now. It's on up there, though. It's just that we just don't know. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, because if it wasn't for folks like you, where would we be? We wouldn't be here. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I will say this, even though we have been plagued with problems today because of some things on the YouTube platform, I will give YouTube credit. They did respond really quick to our Twitter message that we put out, and they did give us a link showing us that they are fixing it. So they are getting it fixed. But I will say we've been plagued by a lot of problems, like the audio issue today, the notification issue, and also the view reporting issue. It's been like a triple whammy of problems today, which has been discouraging because tech issues really affects the stream quite badly, and also our videos too. So we do look forward to getting that
Destroys the
fixed.
soul.
It hurts the soul. But our next one here goes to Jocelyn White, who puts in a 20 as well. And thank you very much, Josh, for being a longtime channel legend. And once again, being so kind to donate the coffee back in the day, because we do appreciate that very much. And of course, the 20 today. And Jocelyn said, great work, gentlemen.
And thank you for enjoying our work, Jocelyn White. I got to thank you massively for enjoying it. We try our best. I hope that tonight it's been a good show so far. And we're going to make sure it's a good show, everyone. We're going to make sure it's a great show for all 7,000 people who are here tonight. And I got to thank you massively for being one of those people, Jocelyn White. And I thank you for enjoying our efforts and supporting it to make sure that we can keep this thing rolling and keep the flag of the Lee Spring Army flying high over YouTube and let everyone know that the Lee Spring Army will live long and never die. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment. And then, and only then, are we going to be moving her on into the remainder of the news.
All right, and this one goes to Rob S., who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Rob, as well, for the 20, and we do appreciate that very much. And Rob said, great work, guys, and LSA.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, thank you so much for the kind support as well. It helps us to keep this thing running, and I got to thank you greatly for that once again, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. So a huge thanks to you so much once again, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the remainder of the news. But before we do, now people are coming in with even more numbers. TS is saying that the video today got 188,000 views. That sounds like yesterday's video, actually. Actually, no, yesterday's video got 200,000 views, so maybe that's showing on your end. I don't know how many views that thing got. It's really a mystery. At least if I was to guesstimate off of the amount of likes the thing has gotten today, it's on up there, well on up there, above, it's getting close, I would say, to somewhere probably around 150,000 views, because having about 10.5 thousand likes can put that video anywhere between 120 to 170,000 views. There's a decent amount of videos who get that amount of likes with that many views. I have no clue. I really don't know. But before we move on, I do want to make sure that we address one more super chat before we move on, because there was a little bit of a typo in the spreadsheet. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and I almost forgot to call off Marion Deemert's $30 super chat because I wrote it down as a 20 and it bumped right down in the spreadsheet and I didn't see it. So sorry to that, Marion. And also, Marion did put in a $30 donation. And it goes without saying that Marion Deemer is a longtime channel legend. And thank you very much, Marion, for once again throwing in that support and helping to make the channel possible as well. And Marion said, Slava Ukraine and Herom Slava.
And Slava Ukraini, Herom Slava. And I thank you so much for the massive support, Marion Deemer. And I thank you greatly for being here with us again tonight and helping this channel to keep on running and throwing in the biggest support of the night so far. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, where will we be? Well, we wouldn't be here. I say that time and time again, every single night, to most every super chat. And I hate to sound like a broken record, folks, but there's only so many ways that I could say thank you, considering that there are so many of them that come in every night, but we're always greatly appreciative. And I hope that we try and get that across the best we can. And I know, Marion Deemer, that you do appreciate the thanks, because you've been here for an incredibly long time and supporting this channel and making it possible and helping us to keep this thing rolling every single day. And so with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the remainder of the news. And moving us on into the actual state of Ukraine, we have been able to see that near to the area of Tekhino, the Ukrainian armed forces have been using MiG-29s to drop hammers onto the Russians. Here comes a hammer. It's the Alabama hammer. A gadoosh. And it just blew up that building right there.
Slammin'.
Slammin', governor! And we can see that it was slammed. Moving on from that and on into our next clip further down the way and inside of our location unknowns, we were able to see hundreds of Ukrainian prisoners were released in a prisoner exchange today. There they are, and they're taking a picture with them. all of them wrapped in Ukrainian flags and feeling Ukrainian soil under their feet once more. It's a great feeling for them, and it's good to see they're finally out of Russian captivity, where a good amount of them were most likely treated harshly or possibly even tortured. Moving on from that, we also got to see a Soviet-era MDK-3 as a part of the Ukrainian army. Look at this old Soviet vehicle. It helps to dig trenches and other kinds of things for the armed forces. They're very old systems, but there really is no need to produce new systems such as these because, they don't really deal with high-intensity combat, and not only that, it doesn't really take a lot to make a mechanical shovel, so you can just kind of make one and then keep it around for about 70 years and then get rid of it and get a new one. But still, a neat vehicle nonetheless, and one that we've rarely ever seen. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see the Baitar Ukrainian drone. And doesn't it look familiar? It looks a lot like a Shahed 136.
It kind of does, actually, except theirs looks a little bit more clean.
It looks a little bit more clean, and it also has like some sort of a ski on the bottom of it. But we see that thing revving up, and that thing's getting ready to fly.
They've got the
the nitrous can,
propeller.
And there it goes, off into the wild blue yonder.
Send them out there to go get them with the propeller.
Because America invented the propeller. America also invented
Alabama education. That's what I'm talking about.
And also, America invented the steam engine. It wasn't James Watt in the UK that invented it and kicked off the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom, which is a clearly known and undisputed historical fact. It was, in fact, an unknown inventor in America who invented the steam engine. And y'all are probably thinking, have you lost your mind, Enforcer? No, I'm actually repeating exactly what I was, quote-unquote, taught in 10th grade history here in America, in Alabama, of all places. You might be able to see the failing in the public education system, because the teacher vehemently defended that when I asked about that after class. I was like, did they really? And she was like, oh yeah, they did. And I was like, no, they didn't. But anyways, we also got to see the Russian losses, which I wrote as the address from the president. Let me go and just put Russian losses right there, so those of y'all on the map aren't thinking that's the speech from Zelenskyy. But here are the losses for the day, and no Bobcats!
Oh, no more Bobcats today. They went into hiding. They went into crawling. They turned into marmots, and they went underground. But we got no Bobcats. None today. But tell us more.
They went deep underground. And we were able to hear from Miss DC, Keeper of the Records, that troop losses are slightly higher, but 7-day average is 1,001. Other categories are also higher than the new lower averages, which is good to hear. And we were able to see that 1,050 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with one armored personnel carrier, 139 supply trucks, 2 main battle tanks, 43 artillery pieces, 148 drones, 2 MLRSs, and that was it. But in general, it is an amazing thing to see that the Ukrainians were continuing to inflict losses onto the Russians and continuing to hold them at bay. And speaking of the bay, we also were able to see the Ukrainians putting some Old Bay on them up here with the drones. They weren't putting Old Bay spice on them, but they were putting another kind of spice called burning hot shrapnel through the front of their engine bays and driving cabs on these Urals and Kamazes. And just take a look at that.
Gotta have some of that Old Spice.
I put that on everything.
Now you're getting everything all mixed up, man. That's Frank's Red Hot.
Oh, well, I don't care.
And also, it's not Old Bay spice. That's Old Bay. That's a seasoning, and Old Spice is a detergent.
Do you think I care? Do you think I do care? I got that wrong. But anyways, we can see them hitting a Bohanka, and also a UAZ, and also another Bohanka, and another Bohanka, and dare I say another Bohanka, and a Kamaz. And is that that is a Bohanka? That's a Kamaz. A lot of fires.
Down with Kamaz.
Mr. President, I have to invade Russia to take care of Kamaz.
Send them in, and gotta be down with Kamaz. Can't have them roaming around and causing daily troubles.
Hit them with a drone strike. Gotta take care of them.
We're going to come out in public and be nonchalant, but in the background, the U.S. military is slaying.
I might come out and wear a business shirt, a formal shirt, and a tie, and I might look a little casual and walk around talking about funny things. But when I get back in the Oval Office, the only thing that's funny is the Taliban getting wiped out. but anyways, moving on from that into Svatove, we also get to see them hitting Russian vehicles in the 7th Skval Infantry Regiment. As my control room just crapped itself. Thank you, YouTube.
Oh, look, this is like a real residential neighborhood kind of right here.
And look at that.
Hey, that's not supposed to be there. Get out of my neighborhood. The homeowners are going to come your way.
Man, the Homeowners Association would like to know your location.
The Russians said, "Who is that?" And they said, "Get out of my line." Duh. Well, I'm sorry, duh.
Duh.
Yeah. See.
And you see them coming on in and hitting a fuel truck right there. I bet you the fire was very gassy. Get it? Gassy?
Man, the homeowners is throwing a party. They're sitting around the fuel track to gas them up.
Bro, you got that gas?
Aw, man, you know it.
Well, you see them hitting a Ural. Well, actually, that was a Ural. Got a little confused there. That grate messed me up. Also see them hitting
that little thing running around like a rat. That little thing was like scooting.
Man, that thing was a rat, and that one was going like 100 back there. And we got to see them hit a Bahanka, but the clip ends. Still, it's nice to see they were knocking out a significant number of Russian vehicles up and down the square. Moving further on down, we also got to see some fighting in the Luhansk region by the 30th Mechanized Brigade. Sounds like they're playing rock. We don't do that around here for copyright reasons. The Ukrainians are laying down that heat.
They're playing that Zelenskyy Park, hardcore rock from Kryvyi Rih.
The way they be running through the trees, call them Kryvyi Rih, the way they be breaking the Russians' ankles.
The way he used to slide through Kryvyi Rih, you would think he was a hardcore gangster.
Putin grew up in the streets of Leningrad. I grew up in Kryvyi Rih. We are not the same.
They said I don't ever venture onto 63rd, but I go down to 64th to check the boys in Kryvyi.
People say that they are hard because they are from Oblak. I say I'm hard because I'm from the coal mines of Kryvyi Rih.
They say they're hard if they're from Parkway Gardens, but they're not from Commie Block.
They say, I want some of that government cheese. I grew up on commie cheese.
They don't even understand what it means to get the government cheese. It's getting that government paper.
When some people say, Zelenskyy, why did you play a piano with your lower part? And I'll say, bitch, I'm after that bag. What are you talking about?
Oh, man. I got some more jokes. I'm going to leave it at that.
Wouldn't you do that for about $1 million? I would. But anyways, moving on down to Berkrovsk, we also get to see the Russians getting hit down here. We got to see one of the Gazivka SPGs getting knocked out. And there comes the drone. And there goes the SPG. And they're just slamming it with multiple drones, making sure to knock it on out.
They said, why did I play it with the piano? Why even ask?
Why they say, why would you go up on stage and play it with a piano? And nobody asks, how did you play it with a piano? How did you do that? But moving on from that clip and on into the next one, we have one down near to the area of Pervomaiske. And we were able to see that the Ukrainian drones were hitting the Russians in Crimea. Crimea River is what I say to the Russian bastards.
But anyways, moving on from that, 9-2. All right, next clip. Oh, they're going to try and intercept him. A lot of tracer fire there. Oh, he's trying to shoot it. And he failed. It hit.
Еще летит! Еще спереди вон! Стреляй, стреляй, стреляй!
This is just totally wasting ammo. No way they're going to hit anything.
And here it comes, right overhead, and right there at the end of the clip, you can see that it hit further behind him. So, looks like they didn't really intercept any of them. But moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also got to see that up in Kyiv, President Zelenskyy was giving the speech. And without further ado, we're going to get right on into it, because we all know that y'all love to hear and love to see the speech. So, without further ado, here is the speech. Beach.
Здоров'я, дорогі українці. Сьогоднішній день, головне, відбувся обмін. І це перший етап найбільшого обміну, про який домовились в Туреччині. Фактично, єдиний значимий результат зустрічі в Туреччині. Все інше росіяни блокують. Поки що блокують. Але повернення наших людей – це саме те, заради чого ми завжди працюємо. Обов'язково повернемо всіх. Кожен наш громадянин, кожен український військовий і цивільний, всі українські заручники, яких утримують в Росії, ми всіх їх маємо визволити. Сьогодні вдома майже 400 людей, 390 – це військові та цивільні. Завтра і післязавтра теж наступні етапи. Формула 1000 на 1000. Я вдячний всім і всій нашій команді, яка залучена до реалізації обміну. І обов'язково дякую всім нашим воїнам на фронті, які забезпечують поповнення для України. Саме обмінного фонду. Також хочу подякувати сьогодні нашим правоохоронцям за те, що додають в обмінний фонд російських диверсантів та колаборантів. Важливо, що Україна повертає своїх. Дякую всім в світі, хто нам допомагає. І так само, як вдається, це повинно вдаватися і все інше. Потрібне припинення вогню. Потрібні дипломатичні кроки до реального миру. Потрібна нова і дієва архітектура безпеки. Об'єднуємо партнерів заради цього. І точно час тиснути на Росію більше, щоб результат був не один, а все те, що потрібно. І коли у росіян вже тиждень пішов на формулювання так званого меморандуму, який вони хочуть, щоб відповісти на потребу припинити вогонь, це точно знущання з усього світу. Стільки часу, кожен день на війні – це втрата життів. Звісно, в Росії людей не рахують, але світ повинен рахувати. Нові санкції проти Росії потрібні. Я дякую кожному і кожній, хто це адвокатує і підтримує. Ще кілька речей. Відзначив сьогодні державними нагородами морських піхотинців у їхній професійний день. Кожна бригада морської піхоти – це гордість. І це дійсно заслужено. Була доповідь сьогодні міністра закордонних справ України Андрія Сибіги щодо завдань для нього. Перше. Забезпечити додаткове фінансування для виробництва артилерії, снарядів. Результат є, 2/3 коштів вже забезпечені. Друге. Додаткове фінансування коштів на виробництво дронів в Україні. Кошти будуть. Третє. Ми готуємось до участі України в форматі групи 7. Дякуємо за роботу. Також сьогодні говорив з прем'єр-міністром Хорватії Пленковичем, справжній друг України та всіх, хто хоче сильної та безпечної Європи. Ми обговорили в цілому ситуацію на фронті, ситуацію в дипломатії. Ми обговорили також підготовку саміту Україна-Південно-Східна Європа. Я вдячний, що пан прем'єр-міністр Хорватії готовий бути на саміті. Сьогодні також була доповідь. Ми готуємо нові санкційні пакети, сильні санкційні пакети. Я дякую всім, хто з нами, хто з Україною, хто з українцями. Слава Україні!
And Hiram Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech, and that is bringing us on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to all of y'all. And boy, howdy, folks, is it going to be a fun segment. We get to talk to y'all about anything, literally anything, and everything. And we love to chit-chat about anything and everything. That is one of the things that we do very well here on this channel, is that we yap. And a lot of people love to hear us yap. Don't you all? Put an LC in the chat if you agree. But with that, it is time for us to move on into one last poll. One that Matthew threw in that is quite interesting. But nevertheless, Matthew, what do we have? And what are people saying? And what are you saying?
All right, so jumping into our final question segment of the night. Some say the most anticipated segment of the entire stream. We have one last poll to get to, a bit of a fun poll right here. It says, what party would you want to start? Just hypothetically, that is. 42% said the People's Republic of LSA, while 28% said the Bull Moose Party, a little bit of history in there. And 24% said the Legion of Marmot, while only 6% said the Social Club of Professor Mortar. And it looks like Professor Mortar must have fallen on hard times because nobody voted for that club. But it looks like the Marmot came in third place, the Bull Moose Party came in third, and the number one was the People's Republic of LSA. Honestly, I was about had to be the People's Republic of LSA. I like the sound of that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say the People's Republic of LSA sounds pretty cool. It's just that that's a communist naming convention, and we ain't commies around here. But with that, I hope that does address
Who said it had to be communist?
Well, I mean, the fact that every single communist country is called the People's Republic of something, that's kind of the...
They just perverted the words, that's all.
Yeah, but you kind of get put in there because, you know, if you call yourself the National Socialist Democratic Party, you're probably going to end up being called a Nazi because they just kind of took that and kind of made that their thing, kind of like they made the People's Republic their thing. I think it should be called the Enforcers Party of Unity. I'm just kidding, by the way. I don't know. You'd have to come up with a really in-depth one. You know what? I got an idea. What if we just called it the LSA? That's a pretty good one, you know. We already got one, I guess, you know. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, it is time for us to get on into the questions. So what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
All right, so jumping right back into our Super Chat questions, we do have a $20 Super Chat from Walther P99. And thank you very much, Mr. Walther, for that $20 support. And we do appreciate that very much. And they said, at what point will U.S. President have convinced everyone that he really, really tried the peace route and decide to let loose on weapons to Ukraine?
That's a very interesting question. I'm going to try and make sure to stay as... I stay neutral on them as much as I can. I'll make sure to try and make this as bland a statement as I can because people like to be offended over anything, Walter. So, and I'm not saying that you're going to be offended by it, but a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people in the audience really get into a big stink whenever anything's negative said about anyone. But I don't really know. It seems at this point, in my opinion, that it's very spineless sort of foreign policy. People can just trample all over us and we just kind of let them. And then we'll also go and try and pick on our allies and try and act like we're strongmen because we're pretty much pimping out our allies is kind of how it works. We're scared of our adversaries and treat our allies like garbage where they eventually will become our enemies and then we'll be scared of them as well. That seems to kind of be the running moniker at this moment. Kind of like, honestly, if I had to say like what the foreign policy looked like on a national level, it's almost like the personal dealings of a narcissist, honestly. Like people who are against you, you're scared of, and then the people who actually are your friends, you treat them like garbage just so that way you can kind of get a little bit of a one-up and feel a little bit better that you treated them like crap. I mean, that's kind of the way it's working. But that's not supposed to be a political thing. That's supposed to be my personal observation of the whole deal. Anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. I think it wants to give her support and help this channel to keep on running, but I don't really know when that would be at this point because I thought that would have been after the Istanbul talks, and now the line's just being redrawn in the sand again, and we're doing the whole thing over. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to American Skull, who puts in a 20, and thank you very much, American, for that $20 support. And they said, I don't know if you guys covered this, and I have a question regarding the Balochistan secession movement currently going on in Pakistan. Do you think that India is funding these groups, or are they taking advantage of the chaos?
Balochistanis are being funded largely by the Republic of India. We did see that they lodged a formal request to the Republic of India to recognize their sovereignty. So it does appear that they are supported and funded by the Republic of India. Otherwise, they wouldn't have turned to the Indians to try and recognize their sovereignty. That would be my opinion on that. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And I thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so with that, it is time for us to move on into the next question. But before we do, folks, here was one of the people. Here they come in, like I say something, and then they come in. Someone said, "We understand you're this party. Just say it." I don't know if you know this, dude, but I have quite a decent amount of firearms, and also I'm like if someone described what I actually believed in, it would really be more down the middle than one way or the other. But people like y'all, like on both ends, like the extreme Republicans and Democrats, which make up most of both parties these days, y'all just don't get that. Like, to y'all, there is no such thing as being more nuanced or actually having a brain. It's more so about just following whatever the party's telling you to follow, and you don't even think about whether it's benefiting you or not. Because I can tell you that most of the policies being put out these days aren't really benefiting any of y'all. They are really benefiting select people inside of those political parties, pretty much putting their benefit over everything at the expense of everyone else on both ends. And so if people will wise up on that one, you might be able to see that a little bit better. But folks like you are the reason why they'll continue to do that, and your life will continue to get worse, and then you'll wonder why. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Live Laugh Toaster Bath, who puts in a $15 donation, and thank you very much, Live Laugh Toaster, for that support. And they said, "Good evening, LSA and enforcers. And what happens when you get divorced in Alabama? Well, you're single now, but she's still your cousin." Oh my God! And please take one from the chat. And LSA.
Well, I got to say, I didn't see that one coming. I should have seen it coming. I knew it when I heard it. I was like, I should have seen that one coming around the corner. That actually got me by shock. I didn't make a noise because I was actually sipping on a little bit of water right there. But that was a pretty good one, I'll have to say. That was a pretty good one right there. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to have good jokes, and we wouldn't be able to keep the show running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Crow Magnan, who puts in a 10 and does not leave a comment, but thank you very much, Crow, for that $10 support, and we do appreciate that. But Enforcer, what say you?
Now, I gotta thank you so much for the support, Crow. You didn't throw in a comment, but the support is greatly appreciated, and it helps us to keep this thing running and keep it rolling. And I gotta thank you so much for that once again, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to keep the Lee Spring Army rolling, and we wouldn't be able to say the Lee Spring Army will never die. And a big thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes LSA, and a huge shout out to Philip Fixes for that support as well. He said, "Hello there, and today's adventure in Orlando, Florida is the Orlando Science Center. And for a bonus, look in the area directly around it for a few art spots, and Slava LSA."
The Orlando Science Center. Here it is, right here. What does this area look like? Oh, wow, that's actually pretty neat. So let's take a look at the Orlando Science Center. They have a dinosaur, a T-Rex actually, and then they
have
also
to have one of those. That's mandatory.
You have to, and then you have to have Big Lizard. You have to have Big Lizard. That's just Zuckerberg's cousin, just hanging out right there.
Oh,
Also, Triceratops. Have to have Triceratops. You have to have Velociraptor, or is that not? I don't know. I don't know his Latin name. You also have to have Pterodactyl. Is that pterodactyl? No, it's not. Something else. But you also have to have turtle and big lizards. And let's see, you have to have skulls. And you have to have a globe. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Big building. Even bigger dinosaurs. You have to
big
have
dinosaur.
You have to have these fish, the lionfish. You have to have
Legopi.
Legopi. You have to have as well tubes. You have to have a clownfish. Honestly, you could just get one of those, like, and have it in like your home aquarium. That doesn't even require a museum. You also have to have earthquake map, Everyone has to know where earthquake come from. You also have Batman. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman are in museum. But you also have to have Big Tree. Beauty and Mutilate Museum. You also have to have one last final thing. A place for kids to run around in so that way they can fall and bust their nose. I remember because I was a kid and that did happen. But beyond that, I have to say, what did he say was around here beyond us, the nice parks?
He said it was the few art spots.
The art spots. Where is... Oh, here's the art spots. How about the Fringe? Okay, that's more of a performance center. How about this one? The museum. You know what? I'm not going to do this because I just realized that there is a decent amount of art that's in the nude, and YouTube would not like that. I just saw that first painting, and it was kind of like a beigey pastel color. Was not nude, it was a toga. And then I started thinking, if I scroll down further, and that's on stream, we're going to have a, ew, what the F thing on our show. And I was like, you know what? We'll skip that one. What the F? Like, you sat there looking at it for like a 5 seconds straight before you actually did anything. But what is this? The Advent Health Station, which is served by Sunrail. Huh. There's actually a lot of railroads that
Wait a minute, what's up with that raccoon, man? Look at him. He's in there looking like he's wanting some help. He said, right on, right on.
Dude, this raccoon is escaping a zombie apocalypse. It's looking out the window thinking, life used to be better. Right on. Like, it's like trying to get out of there.
You don't want to know what's on this train. Right on.
Man, I wonder what is on that train, honestly. They're not showing a lot of pictures of the inside of the cars or anything. Let's see. Dang. Same, these bi-level cabs. I forgot the specific model that these are, but they're everywhere. Like, literally all over the country. But I didn't know that Orlando had its own rail service as well. It honestly seems, man, like every big city in America has its own little railroad of a kind that works, like, actually runs. That's neat, though. Did not know that about this place. Like, look, there's one right there in the middle of downtown. What does this place look like? Church Street. Oh, they have a classic station, actually, from back in the olden times. Not too bad. And the Cheyenne Saloon, operated by Sunrail. There's, I can't tell what type of locomotive that is. That looks kind of like a GP something with like a commuter cab on it. It's interesting. But still, cool nonetheless. Pretty neat, I will have to say. But I do thank you for the support and suggesting for us to take a look around here, because it is an interesting place to see. Is that the U.S. Middle District Court? Ah, yes, the block. They always build them like that.
They always do.
They always do. The United States Courthouse. No pictures allowed in the courthouse. A shame. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And I have to thank you once again for the support and suggesting that we take a little gander around here. Because Orlando is an interesting place. And here's the executive airport, where the executives take off and land. But still, big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the next one.
All right, so our next super chat goes to, guess who? It is Walther P99 once again, who puts in another 20. And huge shout out to you, Walther, for the 2 super chats tonight for a total of $40 support. And we do appreciate that. That would make you the largest super chatter of the night. And Walther said, is there any chance or a large-scale Ukrainian counterattack this summer, or are they just sort of holding on to what they can?
I would have to say that there's no chance of a Ukrainian counterattack anywhere this summer. I believe the Ukrainians have decided that it may be a significant waste to conduct a counteroffensive on the front lines in Ukraine. Now, there may be some new offensives, not counteroffensives, that would begin into Russia, additionally on top of the Tekhino offensive and the Grafovka and Kursk offensives, but I also think that those are going to be fairly limited. At this point, the Ukrainians are trying to lock down and wait out the conflict until the Russians are retreated and have to give up due to economic pressures. So I don't really think they're going to be conducting a lot of major offensives at all throughout the remainder of the war, and they're pretty much entirely on the defensive at this point and hoping to hold the ground that they have. Any counteroffensives that are conducted are not going to be major. They're going to be smaller in form and focalized to specific battlefields and not wide sweeping front-wide regions. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. I thank you once again for support and help with this channel to keep on running once again, because it's folks like you, Walther P99, that help this channel to keep on running and have made it possible up until this day and will help us to make it possible well on into the future. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to the Unbreakables, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much to the Unbreakables for that support and supporting the channel and helping to keep it running as well. And they said, love everything, you guys, and thank you for the hard work. And rate my town, San Pedro, California. And P.S., there's nothing much going on here but fishing and working at the port.
San Pedro. Oh, it's in L.A. Oh, it's near Long Beach. This is the port of Long Beach, isn't it? Like this whole thing here. San Pedro. Let's take a look at the big pictures that they have. Ah, yes. I see you know your port front well. Good one. And you, sir, are you a part of the International Longshoremen's Association? How dare you, sir?
Get your hands off my longman.
Get your hands off my longshoreman! How dare you, sir? This is the bloke who tucked me on the longshoreman, people. Oh, but let's see. Oh, the battleship Iowa. It's here. Wow. Would you look at that? The battleship Iowa. They always said that it was named after a mythical place of Iowa. And in the areas of Iowa, there's nothing but rolling hills of corn. It's a very interesting thing. But beyond that, that's pretty cool to know that that's here. I actually did not know that. Now, another interesting thing that we need to find out here. So what does this place look like here? San Pedro, California. Let's drop down into this area right here. This looks like LA. This is what I would think LA would look like. We went here before, and a decent amount of LA did look like this. It's not incredibly bad. Like looking back on it, we were like, wow, look at this. But looking back on it now, it's not that bad because like you could find a town in Alabama that looked like this fairly easy, or it was worse. So I would say not bad, really. I would give it about a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, somewhere around there. It's not like the greatest, it's not going to be like the most impressive place, but it is pretty nice. It's not bad. But still, I got to thank you for the support and enjoying all of our hard work here, the Unbreakables. And it's very cool to know that you live in San Pedro, California, which is actually incredibly close to the largest intermodal container port on the entirety of the West Coast. This is the biggest one out here. Another cool thing is that the Queen Mary is right over here. Have y'all ever seen the Queen Mary? You can actually sleep on the Queen Mary in the hotel rooms that are on board.
How much does that cost?
$176 a night.
Well, that's not too bad.
Let me see if I can actually... Oh yeah, they have a giant Lego Queen Mary right here.
I would rather have the Lego.
I'd rather have the Lego. But let me see if I can get like the rooms and show y'all what those look like. Dang, they don't really show the rooms now, do they? Gee, do they show the rooms? Do you
have a room, sir? Do you have a room, sir?
They put a red telephone box on the deck. I can tell you all that wasn't there when it was actually in service. But Oh yeah, there's this rusting Soviet submarine right down below it.
It's as good as a modern one, yeah.
It's literally the modern Russian Navy right there. I cannot find any pictures of these hotel rooms on this ship, which is a little bit concerning because you would think if they're good.
I can see them.
Oh, yeah?
It's on their site, queenmary.com. It's very nice. It's a lot of wood. They like the wood paneling on the wall. And they also like to put some nice blue bed sheets on the sides and stuff. It's very posh. Very posh.
Interesting. They did have like a little English village thing called Dark Harbor that they had for a while. It appears that they turned it into like a fairground now. But back in the day, it was like this British style sort of a thing that was almost more like a Christmas village than anything. But it's been closed for a long time, and you really can't get in there and take a look at it. So, sadly, can't really show y'all that. But we all might be interested to know this as well. Did y'all know, because the most famous locomotive in the world is the Flying Scotsman, which is this one right here. Did y'all know that this engine here was actually stuck in the United States right here at Long Beach, right by the Queen Mary, for I think like 10 or 15 years, just rotting away until the British were able to finally get it and return it back to the United States?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so back in the day when the British were getting rid of all of their steam locomotives because it was all being run by British Rail, which was a nationalized railroad company, they were getting rid of all of their steam engines and replacing them with diesel, and this was one of the ones on the chopping block. So this guy came up with this audacious plan to buy it from British Rail, and so he decided that what he was going to do is that he was going to take it on a trip through America, and he did. He actually took it on a trip to the United States. It got dropped off, I think, in New York City. And then he actually traveled it along. Let me go pull up the pictures of the Flying Scotsman U.S. excursion. This is what it looked like.
Oh dear, that reminds me of that train on Thomas the Train, Old Tinky, or they used to call him.
Old Tinky. I don't think there's anyone called Old Tinky, but like, man, that's rough sounding. But because of U.S. law, it was required by law to have a giant headlight mounted onto the front and also a bell because it didn't have one. So they had to put that on there, and then they traveled around the United States. But this is also crazy. That's the Flying Scotsman right there compared to a big boy class locomotive, just to give you the size difference between a large mainline British locomotive, or what they called large, and what we call large.
Yeah, it's crazy, honestly. They got the big boy and the po' boy.
Man, in America, we supersize everything, including our people. That's why we're obese, because damn it, it's the right thing to do. But also, one crazy thing, I think if I'm correct, Matthew, this was actually in Alabama right here.
This is in Alabama? Like, where the hell did this come to?
I think Anniston or something. Let me go check. The Flying Scotsman in Alabama. Let me see if I can see if that is correct, because let's see. Oh my God, dude, you're not gonna believe this. There it is in Birmingham, Alabama, right there.
I didn't stop there for long.
No, it apparently went straight through. It didn't stop through there. But let's see here. So yeah, all these pictures, these right here, were actually taken in Alabama, because back in the day, Alabama actually did have a pretty significant railroading kind of a thing, and we had a lot of heritage steam engines. Like, funnily enough, the Norfolk and Western 611, the Spirit of Roanoke, actually was restored into operational condition in the shops out in Trussville, just outside of Birmingham, back in the late 70s, which got it back into running order. So we actually used to be a proper state here in Alabama, and nowadays we're not really that much. But beyond that, that's a little bit wild to think, man, that this thing came through Alabama. Really, that's bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Also, oh, it's a beautiful train. Look at it. You know, it's like that's.
Oh dear, is this your train? Is this your house?
Is that your train? Is that your train? Is this your locomotive? Is this your engine?
But dude, that's just wild, man, to see it literally traveling through places like Alabama. It's like, honestly, man, that feels like it's a fever dream kind of a thing to see that. Because if you ever see it in Britain, it's always, around like the little cute farm fields, all that sort of a deal. And then around here, it's like heavy industry. We drive this thing through. That's the Sloss furnace in the background back there, by the way, in this picture.
Yeah, it looked like Birmingham's a lot more sparse then.
Yeah, kind of. You know what? Let me go pull up Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, Alabama, 1960s. Wait a minute. Let me move it forward a decade, because that's all going to be the civil rights stuff. I'm wanting to show you the city, not the historical events that happened here. That was when they built that giant culvert, Matthew, for Highway 280.
Honestly, it looked a lot better then than it does now.
Yeah, now it's like all overgrown and stuff. But let me see here. Like, honestly, Birmingham, Alabama looked pretty rough back then. I don't think it's ever looked good, really, like incredibly good down there. It's always been kind of like an industrial hellhole in Birmingham.
I think anywhere near Birmingham's doomed.
Man, like, dude, like, here in America, they're like, man, Birmingham, England looks like a slum. We ought to do that too. And then they, like, pretty much brought it right over here. But let's see. I'm trying to see if I could find some interesting pictures here of, dang, man, they don't really have a lot of pictures out here on Google of Birmingham in the 70s. It apparently was that uneventful that no one would take pictures of it in the 70s. So, oh well, I guess we just won't get to show y'all what the city really looked like. Anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one, I suppose, unfortunately. Because, I mean, hell, we just only have so much to say and so much to show. But nevertheless, I do thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
So our next one goes to Old Warrior, another channel legend who throws in a 20, and thank you very much, Old Warrior, for supporting the channel and also helping to keep it running. We do appreciate that. And he said, did you look at Santa Fe as a place to set up? There are a lot of entertainment industry concentrated there, contacts for the future, and this war will not be a career.
And I thank you for the support, Old Warrior. And this, the war in Ukraine isn't really our career more so. It's more so world news. And there always will be something going on for the large part. We have been able to iron that down over the course of this whole deal. So we will be continuing to run this thing even once the war in Ukraine ends, for large part, because this is our business for the large part. But Santa Fe, New Mexico. Interesting place. I've never actually considered it. I just know that it's the namesake of the Santa Fe Railroad, or the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. But very interesting stuff here. Very interesting. We will have to look into it and consider it, but I am personally not one for the desert. And considering that it's in pretty much the desert here in New Mexico, I probably would avoid it for that reason. But beyond that, I do thank you massively for the support, Old Warrior, and helping this channel to keep on running and giving some nice recommendations, because we will add it to the list and take a gander at it and see if it does meet the criterion. But let's go look at downtown. What does downtown look like? Downtown LA. Oh, it looks like what I would expect Santa Fe to look like, honestly. It has that look. I don't really know how to describe it. But anyways.
It looks kind of dry.
It does. Whoa. Looks kind of dry. Here's what the outside of town looks like, just to give you all a little glimpse.
Well, I mean, call it dehydrated, but looks like this place hasn't had water in a decade.
All day I face the barren waste without a taste of water. Like, it sounds like you're gonna be singing something like that, some cowboy song coming through here. Like, if I come down here, I've got to get a 45 6-shooter, a whip, and a cowboy hat, and call myself Indiana Jones living somewhere down here. Because I can't just be walking around, either looking like him, or you'd be some sort of a cowboy or something. It looks pretty dry to me, and I generally just avoid places that are like arid looking, because I'm not really one for the desert look or the desert feel. It's just not something that vibes with me for some reason. But with
he said he wanted to dress up as a cowboy, but honestly, that sounds a lot more like LARPing to me.
I mean, he might be the next Billy the Kid, but whoa, look at that boiler. I mean, he's gonna be running the Sunset Limited through here. I mean, he's gonna be on that 5 o'clock train. He is the train. I mean, whoa. Look at him. There's Los Alamos. Holy moly, is this like, oh my goodness, this is the Los Alamos where the project was conducted for the Manhattan Project deal. You know what I mean?
Yes, this is, what's it called? Something Sandos Laboratories or something like that.
The Fed money's been here. It's got that same park that's in Huntsville, Alabama. The Fed money was here. And it still is, probably, I would suppose. The Los Alamos Nature Center. We like nature around here. We nuked it back in 1945, but we like it now. Let's see here. So where was the testing ground for this whole deal?
I think there's the Los Alamos National Laboratory right there.
The National Laboratory?
Yeah.
Oh, look, they still have it. They kept it for safety.
That's convenient to keep that thing.
Man, look at that. They got the caves, they got like the holes and the holy caves. Let's see. They got the statue of Bradbury, who's the laboratory director. They have a fire truck, a Ford. They have this big building. They have a Dodge, I think.
That's a Dodge.
They have the Juggernaut from COD, or the EOD suit's what it actually is. They also have that thing.
That's a dud.
they have the little boy and the fat man back there in the background. That's just Kim Jong-un back there. Don't mind him. They also have this. They also have this as well. It actually does look nice around there. But where in the world was
they take the scientists when they acted up? Was the cliff?
Whoa, I mean, he might not be the next Oppenheimer, but he looks kind of commie to me, like a Soviet plan.
Whoa.
I mean, he might not be the next Oppenheimer, but when those scientists acted up, they turned him into a Floppenheimer.
Dude, I like how when they made that movie, they were like, let's just make it seem like it's a casual fact that he cheated on his wife every chance he got. It's like his wife was loyal to him the whole time, and they were just like, yeah, let's just make it sound like it was a normal thing for him to cheat on his wife. It's like, why couldn't we paint the guy like, yeah, he helped out with creating the atomic bomb, but it's like, why didn't we paint the guy for the kind of shady guy he was? He was a communist defector who also cheated on his wife quite frequently. In my opinion, the moral standards there are quite low. So it's like, why didn't the movie portray him like that instead of, oh, he just casually cheats on his wife from time to
Oh
time?
man, they called him faithful, but some say that the name got around the Round Town Pounder. It wasn't wasn't quite faithful.
They said that he was working on a bomb, but the real reality is that he was a bomb in the sheets. I mean, he was putting in that neutron rod. He was he was putting in that atomic work. And they called it the atomic slam. Oh man, but anyways, I just want to know where the actual testing site was where they blew it up, because they didn't blow it up in the Los Alamos town area. They blew it up somewhere.
At the White Sands Range, according to, let me give them their credit, Randolph Eck.
Let's see. Interesting. And also, Buddy P. Moon said, to be honest, most men cheated on their wives during those days. And I'll be honest with you, most of those men were pretty crappy. Because you don't do that kind of stuff. You just don't. So, anyways, with that, that's just my opinion. Some people might want to disagree with that, but if you marry someone, you're not supposed to cheat on them. That's just kind of the rule. That's also the law as well. It's just that it's not enforced. Anyways, with that, I hope that addresses that well, but still, thank you for the offer and the idea, Old Warrior, and I got to thank you once again for support and help with this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Indy Andy 4C, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Indy Andy, for that support, as always, and we do appreciate that. And Indy Andy says, Susie will smack me. Don't mention it. I'll say McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's. but still, I gotta thank you for the support, Indy Andy 4C, and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you massively. Thank you. It means a lot, and it helps us to keep this thing running. But we will keep this thing rolling, and we are thankful for you getting yourself McDonald's. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a $10 super chat from Plexus Gaming. And the Plexus said, I'd really like to know when you will be covering the growing crisis in Canada.
Is that like a domestic political thing? Because we don't cover that kind of stuff. Like, I haven't heard of an ongoing crisis in Canada, unless you're talking about something that's kind of like made up in the political sphere. And that's not to make any offense to you or anything. It's just that we don't cover that kind of stuff. If you want to hear about that, I'm sure there's a million channels talking about it. But, when people ask us, when are you going to start covering the real news, and it's something goofy, like, like Judge something from Fox News exposed this and that, or, someone on CNN said this, like, that's not really news. That's just more so saying stuff. So I don't think we'll be covering any crises in Canada, because that seems to be outside of our kind of coverage. But beyond that, I got to thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And Indy 4C said, don't say it. Why? What was so bad about saying McDonald's? I mean, it's a decent thing.
Oh, I get it now. Sorry, Andy. But still, thank you once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Oh, yes, I see.
Yes,
McDonald's.
Yes.
Our next one goes to Quantum Fighter, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Quantum Fighter, for that $10 support as well. And they said, it's been a long time, and I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to. Have you seen the Helsinki Central Station? Check out the statues on the side. Best stream, makes me laugh. And LLT, LSA.
And I thank you for the support. And this looks like Helsinki Central Station to me. Center of the city. It's got to be it. Let's take a look. Oh, that kind of looks like the train station at Buffalo, New York. Kind of really similar. Let me go show that one really quick. Because if I'm remembering right, it looks just like it. Oh, yes. I see you know your judo well. Are you kidding me? Did they rip it down? Hold up. I gotta go pull it up. Let's see.
Buffalo.
Here we go. It kind of looks like that a little bit. See, let me go back over here. Just Matthew just, like, I don't know what that was. Like, he went, oh! Like, I don't really know. But take a look at this building and notice it kind of has the same little entrances with the arches and such. The towers are totally different, though. That I will give it. But still, let's take a look at this. Interesting. I like the roof. I like the roof. Also, this is actually very square, very angular. Let's see here.
I like the Washington Metro better.
Matthew's gotten obsessed with the Washington Metro. I think he watched like a video or two on it, so now it's the big thing. But don't
you like the Metro?
I haven't seen the Washington Metro a lot, so I wouldn't really know per se. But I generally am one for above ground trains so that we can actually see something instead of just being in a tunnel. For the large part, just kind of moving around underground. But still, this is a neat station. I will have to give it that. And I also got to thank you for support and recommending us taking a look at this little station and taking a look at Helsinki. And also, you'll have the Stadler Flirts, or the RAE somethings. But beyond that, I do thank you for the support and help with this channel to keep on running. Now, let's go take a look at the Washington Metro, because Matthew's been telling me all about the Washington Metro lately. When I bring up
subway.
When I bring up trains, it's unfun. But when Matthew brings up trains, then it's interesting. So let's take a look at the Federal Triangle Metro Station. Ah, yes. I see you build your metros, commie. Good one. And you, sir, are you ready to receive my commie metro? How dare you, sir? That's actually pretty commie looking.
I don't like it because you're calling it commie. I like it just because it's real federal.
But the modern federal style is not that far off from commie, in my opinion. Like, it's actually kind of getting towards there.
Well, I mean, federal apparatuses have a way of sort of leaning that way.
But they don't. But they don't, because the old federal buildings didn't look like that, like the White House or the Capitol building. They actually had like a Greek revival or a Roman revival style. Nowadays, they got into all this brutalism garbage that makes the buildings look very lame. Like, I will be honest with y'all, the J. Edgar Hoover building is a terrible looking building. And also the other modern buildings like Langley in the CIA headquarters, or that NSA building somewhere around Fort Meade up here somewhere. Where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. I don't like the look of them. I think they're a little bit too.
I love how that one looks. This one screams democracy.
This one screams clandestine operations to me. I don't really like the way it looks. It ought to look a little bit more federal and in the Roman style to me. I think that's just the only way to build federal buildings, is by the traditional style. So that way it all matches and it all looks like it's of the same ideology. But I don't know about that metro. I mean, it does look clean. I'll give it that. But beyond that, I don't really know if I like the whole like near almost commie looking kind of style.
This is the one really good functioning metro in the United States, the Washington Metro. This one, I've read stuff on it. I've watched videos on it, and this one appears to be actually pretty well functioning. Like when it comes to like European versus American public transport, Europe always has this beat, but this is the closest that we have to like a European public transport system that's really efficient and good and clean and generally not too unsafe, is the metro in Washington. I really want to try it out. Like I really want to see it.
It's an interesting one. You know what? We never checked out the LA metro before, because we saw it, but I never looked in there. So let's go up here to where I know there will be a station. And where is one? There should be one somewhere around here. You remember it, Matt. You had like the underground access to it. It was on this side of the street. I'm trying to see if I can find it. There's Jimmy Kimmel. So it's somewhere around here, and I'm not really finding it. Dang, man. Let's see. That ain't it. Oh, well, we'll just go down to LA Union Station. We'll find it there. LA Union Station. The roads are filled with junkies. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, the whole place out in front of this, filled with junkies. It was actually a little bit disturbing. But there is a station here, and then it goes here, and then it goes around here, and then it goes under Skid Row, which is a very wise move. And then it goes here. So let's take a look at this station. I mean, this doesn't look bad at all.
That's not too bad. I'll be kind of like a little skittish to ride the Los Angeles subway just because I feel like it might be a little grimy.
Well, I mean, there's others. There are others. Like for example, the Seattle light rail system, which is mostly above ground, unlike others. But let me see here if I can get y'all to that. Yeah, here we go. So it goes through here and it stops somewhere in here. Where in the hell does it stop? Where's the station? Oh, wait a minute. That is one of the stations, but that's not the one where. You know what? We'll just look at that one. We'll look at this one in Chinatown. This is the station for the link in Seattle.
They like to get them around on the link.
They like to get them around link by link. But still, it's not a bad looking one. Covered in moss because it's so muggy up there. The humidity and such. But look, here's another station. These are almost like bus stations, nearly. Oh man, that looks like just like Washington D.C., but slightly
No,
different.
it does not. This one looks rougher than DC to me. This one looks kind of sketchy. Dude, this one is sketchy as hell. What do you mean? There was no sketchiness going on with the metro in DC. Like this one's looking sketchy.
Dude, it's just a station. I mean, there's like hardly anyone standing in it. How does it look sketchy?
It looks sketchy to me. Like I would feel a little bit paranoid walking through here.
Okay, all right. Well, let's try and find another one then. How about Chicago, aka Chirac? Let's take a look. Well, they have the mark thing. Well, they don't have the mark. It's the other thing. What the hell's it called? Let me check here.
The bullets.
The Metra. Sorry, yeah, the Metra. They have Metra, which is
it's like the southern way to pronounce metro. Yeah, let's get on the Metra.
Let's get on the Metra. But let's see here. Where in the world's here's the overhead rail that they have in Chicago. So let's take. So that's what it looks like. It's old. It's very old. This system is actually over 100 years old at this point. So it's a very antiquated kind of a looking thing. Kind of like the subways in New York are very antiquated, in ancient. Like people don't know this. They diss on New York City's subway system, which does look pretty damn bad. But it looks bad because most of the system is over 100 years old and it's getting on, I believe, towards like the 130s at this point. It's a very old subway system. Hell, I think some parts of it are up in the 140s these days. Like this right here. Let's see if we can get down to the station. Oh crap, that actually looks really modern.
Yeah, it looks very modern actually. That's much better looking than the LA one or the other one, Chicago.
Dude, where the hell's the old ones though, man? The ones that look like crap. Oh, that kind of looks like an older one. And like these old mosaics that they used to make when they were building them way back then. Man, this thing was actually the envy of the world when it was originally built. It actually was as impressive as the London Underground, but then they never really maintained it or upgraded it anymore or refurbished it from that point. So a lot of these stations would maintain the same look and pretty much the same grime that they had over the course of about 80 years or 50 years until they would get refurbished or switched out. This one stayed the same. Actually, this station, I remember, stayed the same for about 80 years before it was actually refurbished or updated. But still, that's a little bit interesting about New York. But let me see if I can find y'all another one, like Fifth Avenue. Yeah, these are getting on up there into like the older years where they haven't really been changed out a lot or maintained, where the steel girder beams are quite clear and visible. And the rats run wild. Like they say the rats down here.
Oh, they got those big rats. I mean, remember I went over this like last time we talked about it. They have those jumbo rats here, like the big ones that you can't really fight.
Yeah, man, they got turbo rats, like jumbo rats. Those things will actually mess you up if you try and fight them. More dangerous than some of the people in New York City, and there's not really that many dangerous people in the subway. But still.
Well, I did hear about somebody getting shoved on the tracks not too long ago, so I wouldn't just say that.
Well, yeah, man, but that's like saying, someone ran their car in front of a train at a level grade and got killed. Trains are all dangerous. It's like, well, if you're dumb or, there's one crazy person, yeah, something will happen. But we already went over the fatalities before. New York City subways, year over year, have less fatalities than the roads above them, at least in terms of the actual deaths that happen down here, either from medical reasons or even induced reasons like some kind of a violent crime.
Maybe so. I think we went over the stats before, but I just like the iconic look of the subway cars. Like it's funny, when they filmed Seinfeld way back in the day, the seats on the subway looked exactly the same as they do today.
Yeah, it's almost like they didn't change them. It's almost
Yeah,
like
they
the
didn't.
same trains, actually. I think they are, no joke. Like, that's kind of like the crazy thing about it. I think they are the same. Oh, look, it's Paw Patrol.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. He was patrolling those dangerous people that were on the subway.
Yeah, rip to the Macy's Day Parade, by the way, which I think is going the way of the dodo along with the company. So I don't think they'll be having that again. Or it's going to be run by someone else. Isn't that a shame that Macy's went out of business? Like, that was like a whole thing around Thanksgiving was the Macy's Day Parade.
Oh, yeah.
And now there won't be
On at
that
the
anymore.
times, everything that was enjoyable was going by the wayside. The train spotting, the little parade. They're turning it into the lemon car now because everybody's just so sour.
Oh, look at that. It's a maintenance of way train in the actual underground system. That's cool. But yeah, it's but one place I do like for the feel of it, it feels real New Yorky.
What, Manhattan?
Penn Central Station.
Oh, yeah.
Let me get you
Yeah.
down underground to show you where the trains are at. I hope there's a good view of them because it looks so like weird down there. It's like that's it. It just looks like unrealistic. I don't know how to explain. They painted the roof like solid black and everything else solid black, but the platforms. So it's like you're standing on a platform in the void down there, and trains just pull in, and you get on them in the middle of this void-looking place. And I wish they had better views of that down there, or better pictures of it. But this actually does look pretty nice for the large part, like a very nice station above ground. It's just an underground. It really isn't. But I'm trying to get y'all kind of like that. Not really. Here we go. See how it kind of looks like they're just sitting in a void with like these light strips up there, like just above your head somewhere?
A little bit.
I wish I could show this better, man, because I saw the first Amtrak train pull in back then, and that was when they had pretty much torn down the whole thing and rebuilt it then, and it looked like the void then, and every video I've ever seen of it since, it still looks like the void. But anyways, I'll have to give up on that. Also, the Long Island Railroad? No way. The Long Island Railroad, it's a classic. It's been around forever. There it is. The old classic M7 units.
The old classics.
And it'll bring you on into Long Island. That's why it's called the Long Island Railroad. It goes from New York City all the way out to, I think, Montauk nearly on Long Island.
Oh, Montauk. Yeah, that Montauk area, that's been known for some stuff.
Oh, real questionable stuff. Man, are you about to bring it into the story of, there was that Camp Hero out here, and that's where they...
There was a Camp Hero out there. You know about that?
Oh, yeah, I know about that. That a little operation they had out there.
Stranger Things.
You know what we're talking about. Y'all know what we're talking about. They filmed that Stranger Things show out there, too. And they also have the Montauk Point Lighthouse out here, too. Look at that lighthouse. That's a pretty nice one, actually. Pretty cool looking.
Winslow, turn on the light, Winslow.
Winslow,
it was filmed. It was all a big experiment, and Winslow was the face of it.
Winslow, I'm gonna go up into the light and strip naked and do very questionable things in front of the light, Winslow. Don't come up here, Winslow.
And then the other guy, the Winslow guy's like, oh man, I want to strip naked and do weird shit in front of the light. He's hogging it. And he killed him or something. That was like the whole plot of the movie. And also there was like some weird statement about if he had a steak, he would have sexual relations with it or something. It was a very weird movie. Would I watch it again? No, but it was weird. It was very weird. Anyways, man, would you look at that lighthouse?
Turn off the light, Winslow.
Winslow, get to Werner and get up there and fix the light, Winslow. What the hell's going on around here, Winslow? Winslow.
Man, Winslow was losing his mind in there, man. You're a bookie, aren't you? So like that's like they were just going crazy through the whole movie. There's a lot of lighthouses that are around. Let me see. There's here we go. The Orient Point Lighthouse. This is a little beater right here. Look at that.
Yeah.
Matthew went, oh, yeah. That's so lame, man. Wait a minute, what was that? The Plum Island Animal Disease Center.
Uh-oh.
3 stars. Why is it? The chicken wings were a bit tough, but the margaritas at the tiki bar were top notch. I don't know what the hell that is.
Oh.
Let's see. Everyone's talking about the Lyme disease thing. The Lyme disease existed before this place. It's a modern day conspiracy theory that Lyme disease just came out of this place, because Lyme disease has been recorded in America since the first colonists arrived. Lyme disease has been a thing. So people are trying
No,
to.
they say the Montauk area, which is why it's kind of a little bit infamous, was the site of some interesting experiments. And also, of course, you have that Plum Island over there with the experimenting place for the animals. It seems to be a lot of experimentation was happening down here at the end of this Long Island spot right here for whatever reason, but they obviously shut most of it down. But yeah, it's a little bit interesting.
Matthew, they say that there is a place that they actually put all of these experiments after they failed. You know where that place
Manhattan.
was? They said they put them in Yonkers. Oh God!
Oh,
God,
Yonkers.
Yonkers! Oh, get out of here! Oh my God! I've heard so many bad things from Yonkers, and I remember that one episode, Matthew, which really started me off on trying to figure something out about Yonkers. And it was that episode, man, where that guy had the TV repairman come in, and the TV repairman was Winnie the Pooh. And he fixed the TV, but the TV was only showing what was going to be happening like 20 minutes in the future or something like that.
Yeah.
And then his wife came in and to this guy who was like some sort of like a weak spine guy. And she's like, "What are you going to do? You going to go down to Yonkers? Ah, Yonkers." And she just kept saying it until he threw her out the window. So that went on for like 2 minutes or something in the show.
Justified crash out.
Honestly, if someone kept yelling Yonkers at me, I'd throw them out a window. I'm just kidding, folks. But still, Yonkers. Oh my God, that actually really kind of like proves the point in the first picture right there. That's a rougher place, at least from what I've heard. I might be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was gentrified at some point. But that's an unfortunate monument. I was like, what monument is that? I was like, never seen a statue like that before. Look, a science barge, a barge of science.
That's why they brought him here.
Yeah, also, further up this river, actually, there's a lot of cool stuff, actually, around New York. And when I say cool, I say it kind of with, like, a little bit of a reservation that it's not, like, cool for, like, coolness sake. It's just kind of, like, interesting stuff. Here's Sleepy Hollow, right here. Like, the famous Sleepy Hollow, with the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow.
Yes. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. And then there's something further on this side of the river. I'm trying to find it. Here it is, folks. Sing Sing Correctional Facility, the famous prison that Al Capone got put in before he went to Alcatraz. Kind of a cool one. It's still open to this day, I believe. So you can actually still be sent to Sing Sing Prison if you're in New York State. So that's a little bit of an interesting one. And also the train runs...
That's called getting sent up the river, by the way.
Yeah, you get sent up to Sing Sing. Pretty interesting one. Also, another thing that's interesting is that not too far from here, there's West Point, not too far up from there, but there is another place. Here we go. Constitution Island right here. During the Revolutionary War, the Continental Army actually built a giant iron chain and ran it across the Hudson River to the other side, to West Point. And what the idea was at the time was that they were going to be able to stop British ships from sailing up the Hudson River and taking anything further up, like Fort Ticonderoga. So that chain existed throughout the whole of the war, although it never really was tried. Like, the British never tried to go up the Hudson River, so it was kind of like a pointless defense in hindsight, but at the time it was a vital one. So that was a little bit of an interesting part of the story there. And that's also why, West Point exists. You can actually see the Great Chain right there. There's a little bit of it left, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. A little interesting part of early American history. But let's see here. What else? What else would be interesting to show you all around here? The Lyndhurst Mansion of Lyndhurst fame. Oh, shoot. Look at that. It is the Lyndhurst Mansion. Wow. Honestly, that's pretty clean.
That is pretty nice. I like the rug.
I like the rug, and I like the roof. The roof is very nice, and I like the craftsmanship. The craftsmanship is impressive here. Honestly, this is my kind of style, folks. If I had to pick an architectural style for like an upscale house, this would be it. It's very nice looking, I would have to say. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on into the remainder of our super chats, because we have gotten into a very deep rabbit hole and we want to make sure to get the remainder of them. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so jumping into our next super chat, this one goes to Cookie, who puts in a 20 Australian. And thank you very much, Cookie, for that $20 support. He said, to my adopted grandsons, thank you.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And thank you for saying that we adopted the grandsons. That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. So now I got to thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, well, you wouldn't be able to be America's favorite adopted grandsons. And so a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've also got a 20 from the B-Man. And the B-Man, thank you very much for that support as well. He said, thank you, LSA. And do you think Putin will retire soon and Zelenskyy become the peace hero of all time?
I think so. I think the only way that Putin's going to go is if he gets ousted. I don't think he's ever going to give up and retire. He's going to be there until death, most likely. A lot like other Soviet premiers that weren't ever booted out. So I would say I don't think he's going to be retiring. I think he's going to be around for a while. But I think he's not really going to have a choice. He's going to be forced into retirement, probably by the Russian military at some point eventually. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Adam McLean, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Adam, for that support once more. He said, Matthew is anti-train. Sad. Honestly, I'm not anti-train necessarily. I just don't like getting too foaming about them, to be honest. I'm not a huge foamer. I do like a good train, but not too many trains. But Enforcer, what say you?
I like a lot of trains. I'm very pro-train. I like trains. Trains are cool. Trains like me. I like trains. It's a simple kind of a thing. It's a simple equation. I like, for example, the trains I like, they like me back. Like, for example, the National Museum of Transportation. Actually, the North Carolina Museum of Transportation. Where is that? Where is that? Let's see. The North Carolina Transportation Museum. Where is this? There we go. It's in Salisbury, out here in the middle of central North Carolina. But they have a lot of cool stuff, like this old E8 or E9 unit. Very nice. It's part of the Southern Crescent. They also have some other cool things, like car shows at this place. So you can see your cars and trains in the same spot. They also have a logging shay, a standard gauge logging shay. They also have Hot Dog Man's train called Coke Power back there.
Oh, man,
I'm getting chuffed. We also have a nice Southern high hood, a tradition. They also have some Chevrolets. I had to look at the badges there. Sorry, everyone. They have They have a Norfolk and Western back there. Honestly, this is my kind of place. They even have a small Southern Railway coal hopper. I'm not really sure if that's a coal or a ballast hopper. Cannot tell. They also have this, I think this was the, let's see, it was the Atlantic coastline, I believe, with that kind of a paint job. Didn't like that paint job much, but, you know, you get what you can. You get what you can, and you don't pitch a fit. They also have more nice cars. They have this Chesapeake and Ohio F unit. Pretty clean, I must say. It's just a cool place. Trains like me, I like them. It's a nice roundabout sort of a cycle. So with that, I gotta thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And Matthew isn't necessarily anti-train. It's just that he likes trains in moderation, and he kind of gets to pick his own. Like the Washington Metro. And I actually will say I'm generally not a big fan of metros. Like, I like them for their transportation abilities, but as like an enjoyment to ride or operate, not necessarily so, because the entire operation is inside of a dark tunnel, and the only things that you can see are, you know, illuminated by the headlights, and that means that only the engineer can see something, and you're just kind of sitting in a dark tunnel getting moved around while sitting in a chair. And that's not really my kind of railroading. I'm more so into the railroading above ground, where you get to see the scenes and the sights, but still very effective for inner city transportation. Still, with that, I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Right Geek Project, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Right Geek, for the second support of the night. And they said, which stealth aircraft is superior, the F-35 or the Su-57E? And why U.S. stopped making the F-22 Raptor and never sold it to allies?
The F-35 is superior to the Su-57 in every way. The Su-57 isn't even stealth. It is actually high visibility. It has the radar cross-section of an F-15. As far as the reason why the F-22 was never export sold, our air superiority fighters are generally rarely ever made to be export sold. The F-15s were only export sold after the U.S. had them in service here domestically for quite some time. And also the F-22 possesses a lot of proprietary technology that is so secretive, for the large part, that we weren't even comfortable with selling it as an export model. Another reason why the F-22 was not really produced often, or the production cycle was stopped, was because later on it's been found out that the F-22's fuselage is so advanced in its design that our technology actually cannot keep up with it. And so there's a decent amount of stress fractures that are starting to be created inside the fuselage as it continues to have more and more years of wear put under its belt. And so we're actually going to be moving to retire all of the F-22s and bring in a new replacement, which will most likely end up being the F-47, replacing it in the air superiority role. So that would be my answer to all of your questions, but very good questions. But the F-35 would beat the Su-57 without a doubt, in my opinion. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Kyle Padell, who puts in 2 super chats right here. And thank you very much, Kyle, for the 2 $5 supports. And he says, I think we need more support for Chris's mom rather than either party. And also, both enforcers, where can I get an LSA banner?
And I thank you so much for the support. Sadly, we haven't been able to reintroduce LSA flags and banners because of some behind-the-scenes issues and difficulties with doing that a second time. But I do thank you for the support. And I'd have to say, Matthew, can you reread that first part?
That the first part was that he said, let me check real quick. He said, I think we need more support for Chris's mom.
I'd have to agree. Chris's mom's been through a lot, or more so, a lot of people have been through her. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address both parts of your super chat quite well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to none other than Flash1, another longtime channel viewer. And thank you very much, Flash, for that $20 support and helping keep us running as well. And Flash said, hey there, enforcers, and I just stopped by to say hello. And hello, Flash. He said, I'm always late for the show at the moment, but I get to watch it later. And if that makes sense, and I heard the pizza fund needs topping up an LG, please.
Hey, thank you so much for topping up that pizza fund. And also, I gotta say that I completely understand. I don't know why I stuttered so badly there. I completely understand if you have to watch it later. It's better to be late than never, but if you can't really catch the stream while it's live, watching it later is completely understandable. I have seen a lot of people and heard a lot of people say that they have to watch it later, probably when they're at work or off work, and I completely get that. But nevertheless, it's good to hear that you are here with us tonight, Flash1. You're an old guard and a channel legend from the great lands of Australia, and I have to say that it's wonderful to see that you stopped by just to say hello. And so thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would have never been able to make this channel possible over the years, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running these days right now. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the live chat question, sponsored by Flash, is going to go to Kendrick Streetman, who said, is the breakaway region still rebelling in Pakistan?
From what we know, yes, but it's incredibly low intensity to the point it's not really threatening the stability of Pakistan right now. So I hope that answers that live chat question well, at least in a very succinct way. And thank you once again, Flash1, for sponsoring that live chat and helping the channel to keep rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to none other than the Duncan VR, who puts in a 10 Australian. And thank you very much, Duncan, for the support once again, and for being a longtime channel legend that, of course, loves the animal noises. He said, Baba Moo. Tell me more about the F-69. Oink, oink. Get your hands off my Baba Quack Moo.
And I got to thank you for the support, Duncan VR. And that was a very short one. I was actually taken off guard by how short that was. But still, it would not be a normal LCA at night without the animal noises. And I also have to say, I would check out the F-69, but I know what that is, and we're going to pass on that. But I do thank you for the good humor tonight, once again, Duncan VR, and the animal noises, because it's always the animal noises with you. And if it wasn't, we would be amiss. We would be wondering, what happened to the tradition? What happened to the animal noises? We have to have them every night, or it's just not a full-on LSA night. So a big thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Andrew Honeycutt, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that $5 support as well. And we do appreciate that very much. And he said, there's a Russian kid on social media making fun of the terrible state of Russian roads. It's hilarious. And have you guys heard of it? LSA all the way.
And yes, I've heard of the terrible state of Rossiyski road every time. Take a look at this. Here is street view. Let's drop down on main highway. Good God. That is called a highway. This is called a highway, folks. Oh my goodness. I'm like, that's rough. This place
is terrible. Like the shoulders are really rough.
Honestly, man, this is more like a one-way street with like a ditch that's about half the lane on both sides nearly. This is bad.
Pretty much.
Oh, look. We got just people wandering around the streets up here, probably getting... Did you see that house? Oh my God, it's falling apart.
Oh, great heavens. It looks like I got caught up in the Japanese tsunami.
Man, honestly, man, that thing looks like it was a part of the firebombing of Tokyo with how bad it looks. Like, geez. Let's go to another part of Russia, further out here. I tell you, man, Russian road infrastructure is just pitiful compared to U.S. road infrastructure. It is
just awful.
It is pitiful. It is quite truly the worst. Like, look at these roads. Here in America, these would be considered like a small county road somewhere, not even close to a highway. And if we let me go show you this, just to show you Birmingham, Alabama, because this is how big of a step up it is here. Let me go to our major intersection right here. So this, let me see if I can get you all up on a high one. So this is just your normal overpass here in the United States. And while I'm not a big fan of the U.S. Interstates for how they changed the country in a way I think wasn't really positive for its development, you do have to admit that U.S. interstate systems and basic U.S. interstate structures are pretty impressive in what they're able to achieve. You're able to get from one interstate to any other direction on any other interstate without stopping or without having to cross some sort of an intersection where other cars are traveling perpendicular to your direction of travel. That is something that is absolutely amazing and really impressive when you look at it, because the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China really don't have this kind of stuff, and if the Chinese do, they're building it out of tofu drag. So that's my 2 cents on that. But Russian road infrastructure is horrendous. Let's go even out here, out into this area of Russia. There's only one road that the street view went down out here. So let's take a look at it. Oh my God, it's a dirt road. No, oh my God, no way. Oh my
it's a
God.
gas station with above ground tanks.
This is crazy. I never in my days thought that the highway would be made of dirt. This is like America in the 1910s, like before we started paving everything.
That's awful, really.
Oh my God, I cannot believe that. Let's go out here to Never. Oh
Never.
Man. Oh my God. So they finally have it paved through here, but once again, it's almost like a 2-lane county kind of a road set up here. This is pitiful. Honestly, that's pretty out there, though. That actually is fairly pretty. But the road systems are actually really bad off. I think I can think of one road here in Alabama that kind of looks like that, and it's that road near Marbury. Let me go see if I can find that. Let's see. Here we go. So it would be this little intersection right here, I believe. Does it even look like that on the street view? See, you see what I mean, folks? This is a small, insignificant county road in Alabama with absolutely no traffic whatsoever, and it is actually in the amazing, immaculate state of an actual Russian national interstate or highway out there. Like that's crazy. So yes, I have heard about it, and it is not even over-exaggerated. It is actually 100% the truth. But with that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Plexus Gaming, who puts in a 5. And he said, explanation of my previous question, there are now 5 provinces actively talking about leaving Canada, and that was what I was talking about.
Oh, well, that sounds like a very political kind of a thing, because that kind of stuff is always for political reasons, like part of Oregon wanting to become part of Idaho, California wanting to exit the U.S. Those things are political. I do thank you for the support, though. But now knowing what you're talking about, because I thought it was gonna be something like the whole trucker protest thing or something like that. I was like, oh man, I was like, man, I don't even want to to even have to skirt around that. But that still sounds pretty political, where I wouldn't be able to talk about it, because that kind of stuff is being created because of domestic political issues, and it's not going to go anywhere, because they're threatening to break away, but I don't really think in their parliamentary system there's a system set up to where they can just break away like that. It's not a federal system like the United States, where a state can secede from the union, like they used to be able to. That's a parliamentary system, so you'd have to get the approval of Parliament, the whole of Parliament, to be able to do something, and everyone's going to block that every time. But still, I hope that does address it the best I can. I thank you once again for support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to the B-Man, who puts an A5. And thank you very much, B-Man, for that 5. He said, how old is the hot dog man, LOL?
I don't even know. The hot dog man is in between the ages of bum and bummer. So I don't really know. But the guy is just a lowlife. I don't really think that that takes a lot of investigation. But I don't really know his age, actually. But still, I thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a $4 super chat from Blizath, who puts in a 4, of course, like I said. And he said LSA.
And LSA. And thank you for the support in helping the channel to keep on running. Because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to say, long live the LSA, and thank you greatly once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And before we do, John George Bauer Booth said, Russia went big on railways instead of highways. Yeah, not really. Like, kind of, sort of not. The fact is that Russia's poor. So, yes, like, most of their transportation is done by railways. But that, like, on their scale, that means that their railways are, like, 3 times or 4 times worse than Amtrak. And Amtrak, in even its current state, which is pretty all right compared to some other railroads around the world, is in the worst condition that U.S. passenger rail on a large scale has ever been at. Like, for example, let's go out to the town of Bratsk, which I'm sure has a railway station in it somewhere. Right here. This is a Russian railway station, and it's serviced by an actually electrically operated multiple unit, which sounds like that'd be fine until you remember that this is in the middle of absolutely nowhere here in this town, and the next major city is hundreds of miles away, either at Kursk or Krasnoyarsk, meaning you have to ride a commuter train over a distance in a straight line, which trains never travel in a straight line, of about 330 miles just to get to a big city to possibly buy things that you would not be able to buy that are bare essentials inside of a place like Bratsk. So that's something that you think that the Russians really got into rail until you look at the Trans-Siberian Railway and the conditions on that railway, and then it's bad. And that's something that I find so funny. There are some people here in America who romanticize the Russian Trans-Siberian Railway, and I would say rail travel can be, like, romanticized to some extent in some places, but certainly not the Trans-Siberian Railway. It's a hot, muggy train that smells like foot cheese, that is full of a bunch of Russian alcoholics, and that's no thing to be romanticized at all. That is pretty bad. But anyways, with that, I hope that addressed it well, and thank you once again for helping to keep channel running like Ulan Uday, because folks like you make channel possible. Keep running. And man, this looks generic. Oh. Commie train. It's a literal commie train.
It's a CCCP.
It says USSR on the front. Oh, man. Let's see. I just gotta be honest. Why does it have brake lights?
Because it has to stop quickly.
No trains in the world have brake lights. Russia was like, we have to let them know we're braking. It's like, why? Like, they have rear-facing headlights. I get that. But brake lights? What for? Like, I don't... Anyways. With that, we are moving on to the next one.
And up next, a big shout out to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Sarge, for that support. He said, LSA, hit the like button. That's in order.
And hit the like button, people. This is in order. We've gotten over 3,000 likes tonight. Can we get a little more? And so, thank you so much once again. I hope that has addressed it incredibly well, because it is people like you who help this channel to keep on running and make channel possible for a very long time. So, big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Marc-Andre Burnett and also Michael Irving, who each put in a $2 donation and also helping to keep the channel running. And thank you very much, Marc-Andre Burnett, a longtime channel legend, and Michael as well for that support. And we do appreciate that. And y'all two are actually going to bring us right into the live chat question. It is now time to grab some live chats and our Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had literally, like I always say, the entire roster of Morse code decoders. We had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, Arabelle Garbo, Joni Dog, and Norm Pritchett. They said the Morse code reads, near nuclear style explosion happening at the Russian ammo depot. And is that foreshadowing an LLT LSA?
And ding! And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that down on the nail? And that was the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate the Lee Spring Army Signal Corps for getting that correct all the time. Y'all always get that correct. And we are always impressed, very impressed, I'd say, with y'all getting that correct. And so a big congratulations to y'all once again. And with that, it is actually a time for us to get on into the live chats proper. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first live chat, this one goes to AF Kaplan, who said, do you think that the U.S. will finally let Israel strike at Iran?
I think we might, or I really don't think it's up to us anymore. I think the Israelis may actually truly be doing it on their own, regardless if the U.S. likes it or not. And at the end of the day, the U.S. will have to follow along because they just do that. And so I hope that addresses that well, in my opinion, because I think whether the U.S. is going to allow them or not, they are. But if we're just asking, has the U.S. allowed them? I think the U.S. is getting a little less fervent on holding off from attacking Iran. But, you know, that could be subject to a 180 reversal the next day. And then we're, you know, crucifying the Israelis for wanting to protect themselves from a possible nuclearizing country. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we are on to next ones.
And the next one goes to Tactical Bite, who said, are we going to cover the latest attack on Kyiv that's still ongoing?
We generally don't cover ongoing attacks in Ukraine because it's a little bit hard to follow those stories live, and it's also hard to add to those stories considering that they're developing. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to XX Lottie Reckless. And they said, how much longer will the war continue? 6 months, a year, or no idea?
I would say it's definitely going on for longer than a year from now, for sure, at this point. That's what I'd say. But beyond that, I really can't tell you when it would even possibly start coming to an end. But I can promise it's going to be going on for at least another year at this point. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, it is time to move on to the next ones.
And the next one goes to AF Kaplan, who said, regarding the crashed Mi-8 helicopter, is there any possibility that this may have been caused by sabotage?
It's possible, but considering that it was in flight, it's most likely a lack of maintenance or some sort of mishandling of the helicopter that may have led to the crash. But sabotage is not out of the picture. Sabotage is also a likely option as well. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next ones.
And the next one goes to Jeffrey Walker, who said, if Iran and Israel escalate, would that be a distraction for Russia given their military ties?
I would generally say no, because the situation between Iran and Israel has been going on since the inception of the Islamic Republic of Iran, so it wouldn't really serve as a distraction that Russia is creating. It will more so be a continuation of the hostilities that have existed between Israel and Iran for about the past 40 or so years, and more of a separate situation than a distraction. And so I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one. But before we move on to the next ones, I did see, let's see. Oh yeah, Quantum Fighter's got a good one. There was a Russian serial killer that used the trains in the Soviet Union to hunt people, and it took years for anyone to catch him because the Soviet Union didn't want to admit that there was a serial killer in Russia. That's also another interesting thing as well about another another kind of a pistol that existed, which was the Nagant revolver. Because back in the early days of the Soviet Union, there actually was gun ownership going on around there. And so, well, actually, I believe the Tokarev also could be privately owned as well. And they found out that some criminal units, some criminal elements in the Soviet Union were getting their hands on these pistols. Like they would just rob them from the Red Army, and then they would go and buy ammo at hunting stores for these pistols. And so the Soviet Union said, "Oh, this is not good because this thing uses an ubiquitous cartridge, and also the 1895 does as well. It's used in the civilian world, much like it's used in the army as well." So what they did is when they designed the Makarov pistol, because this was generally the reason why they did this, they created a proprietary 9x18 millimeter cartridge. So it's a 9 millimeter, but it's a little bit smaller. It's getting kind of closer to being a 380. And the reason why they did it was so that way they could track all of the ammunition that was ever produced for this pistol and the pistols. And so that way, if anyone was going around killing people, they would be able to figure out if they were from the military or not, meaning that it would be a lot easier for them to track these people down and punish them for what they're doing. So that's kind of an interesting thing with that, because originally I believe the Makarov was actually supposed to be chambered in the exact caliber of the Tokarev or the TT-33, but later on they actually changed the caliber from 9x19 Parabellum or 7.62x25 Tokarev to 9x18 to make it proprietary, and specifically for the Soviet Army. So I hope that's an interesting little story about that as well, because serial killers were common in the Soviet Union, much like they are in every other society. It's just that most of them were kept such under wraps that they wouldn't really talk about them much, and so we don't really know a lot about the serial killers of the Soviet Union. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a super chat from Mike MadDog14X, who put in a 2. And thank you very much, Mike. He said, "Slav Ukraine."
And Slava Ukraine. And thank you so much for the support, Mike Mad Dog 14X, or 14X-Ray if we want to use phonetics there. And Slava Ukraine and Ram Slava. And a big thanks to you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are back into the live chat questions.
And this one goes to Magic Forest, who said, "Is there any truth to the statement that the returned Russian POWs are jailed?"
We haven't really heard enough proof about that for sure. We have seen that a lot of them are out in the normal society, but if they're in prison, we wouldn't really have enough proof to say definitively whether they were or weren't. So I would say, from what I know, possibly not, but there's still a chance. We just don't really know. And so with that, I hope that answers that somewhat well. And with that, also, before we move on to the next one, I'm going to pick it. CIA Sniper said, "Well, if you like trains, and if I could, I would show you an original 1904 Atlantic engineering chart." Let me go pull one up. The, let's see, that would be a 44, or let's see, hang on, 442 Atlantic. These little fellas.
Those are big fellows, really.
They're kind of getting on up there. Yeah, they were starting to get a little bit larger. But the trailing wheels was what was interesting. I call them trailing axles. Trailing wheels is the correct term. But the trailing wheels was an interesting innovation on this thing, because what this is, what the Atlantic is, it's a 440 American, or there we go, 440 American, which is this, right? Well, not that. It's this. That thing was an abomination, dude. It actually freaked me out. I was like, look at that.
That's horrible.
And someone filed a patent for this thing? Man, they were desperate.
Nobody's going to copy it, trust me.
Dude.
Leaf springs are all over it, man. Look at that. Leaf springs on every wheel.
Man, that's how it was back in the day, man. Like, there's leaf springs on literally all of them, even on this one. But this is what the Atlantic actually is. It's this, a 440 American-type locomotive. But the problem is that what people were running into in the late 1800s is that they could only make the firebox so big, which meant that they couldn't heat a significant volume of water to a very high temperature, or what is called superheated steam, because they didn't have a big enough firebox to be able to get the water up to that temperature, or to boil a larger volume of water to travel at higher speeds, or to just have a larger steam volume available at any moment for greater torque and pulling power. So that was a huge problem, and it was, crazily enough, a massive technological innovation when they came up with the trailing wheel. And that's what the 442 Atlantic is, because if you look at it, Matthew, it has the exact same wheel configuration as this American type, but they have the trailing wheel axle back here.
That is crazy.
So what that did is it allowed for a much larger firebox on these types of locomotives, which allowed for them to put more coal in, which allowed them to create more heat in a larger heating surface area, which boiled more water. And sometimes later on, they would be able to add in superheaters that would superheat the steam, which would give them more steam pressure, more steam volume, and allow them to travel at higher speeds and also have more pulling power. So that was a huge innovation at the time when the Atlantic came out. They were like, wow, we've really broke the code. And later on, you would see that this sort of a configuration would just be kind of messed with a little bit. Like they would turn the 442 into a 462 and turn it into a Pacific. But this was a really big innovation for the time, the Atlantic. Let me go show y'all my favorite style. Well, one of my favorite styles, which is the 46, not this one. Let me go get one of the beefier ones that they would make later on. There was a million of them, by the way. They were quite literally around the world. The Canadian Pacific G3s were pretty cool looking to me.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad, not too bad. They were pretty cool. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find another bigger American one. Because, oh look, Matthew, it's the Geschlickverleichmann in die deutschen Volk kind of a Pacific.
Oh,
What, you don't like it?
it's kind of just mid.
It's mid, yeah.
I don't like any of these, man. These are killing me.
Man, you're always getting killed by, man. You can talk about the Washington Metro, but I can't talk about no Pacific. Man, get the hell out of here. I'm just playing. We'll get off of this. But CIA Sniper, I'd have to agree. The Atlantics are pretty neat. But with that, a big thanks to you once again for the support. And, well, actually, you didn't even throw any support. You just threw in a great live chat. What am I talking about? But I thank you for throwing that in because that was a little rabbit hole I wanted to go down because that one seemed fun, to me at least. But with that, we are on to the next one.
So our next one goes to the B-Man. Once again, he puts in a 5 Canadian, and thank you very much, B-Man, for the support. They said, LOC, and how many wars can you keep up with? And thank you. Awesome.
And I thank you so much for the support, B-Man, and I think it really involves the intensity of them. But I think our limit would be 3 major conflicts. I think that would be about the maximum amount of stuff that we could cover in a single night without just making the news segment about 3 hours long. Because with three active conflicts going on at a given moment, which was the highest volume we ever had about a couple of weeks ago, we were pressing for about a 2 hour and 10-minute long kind of a news segment with that going on. And considering that we have a specific limit to how long we want to be on air or how long we really can be on air and make sure that the quality is retained, we can only shoot for a maximum about a 2.5 hour long news segment. 3 hours is really pushing it. And so that generally seems to be our limit, is about 3 at a time. Any more than that, and we would have to start either cutting down significantly on the news from specific wars to try and cover all of them, or we would have to just start omitting conflicts entirely and just focus on several at a time. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and I think it wants to give us support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sean Willem, who said, speaking of the water, have the India released the water yet?
I actually haven't heard any follow-ups on that. They may have. I'm assuming that they haven't because we haven't gotten a lot of additional information to show that that would be the case. So we largely work off the last piece of information that we got until it's changed, meaning that the water is still cut off. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are moving on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Sebastian, who said, do you think Russia will launch a 2-pronged attack to close the corridor between Kaliningrad and Belarus?
They could. Well, if they do, they would definitely do that. It's going to be a pincer maneuver in the Suwalki Gap to close it off. So I would say definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, it would be a pincer maneuver to close off the Suwalki Gap. And so with that, I hope that addresses that the best I can. And it appears that the poll came in. Do trains make you feel panicky? 83% said no. 16% said yes. So it's time.
I meant to say, does train talk make you feel panicky, not trains? Because I mean, it made it sound like maybe you freak out if you step on a train or something. Because everybody's going, oh, like I can't stand it. No, I meant like train talk. That's what I meant to say, but I worded it wrong.
So now it is time to return to being. I'm just kidding, by the way. We're not going to do. It's time to return to train or bean, either one. But beyond that, you know, I should show you this, Matthew. I should show you this because I think this would be cool to you. Electromotive diesel. Don't cry. Oh, actually, let me put in corporation. There we go. So that way you'll get the old ones. It's still sent me here. I gotta find you the ones, man. Like the first switchers, you're gonna love them. You're gonna love them, man. You're gonna love my switchers. You're gonna love them. Let's see here. Is this it? No. No, where is it? Oh god. where is it? List of G. Yeah, this has got to be it. Come on, come on. There it is. The cube.
That is just crazy.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Or look at this one, man. The cube.
That is crazy.
That's crazy, man. Really. Or this. The Zephyr.
Zephyr.
Man. Bro, I'm like, bro, I feel like I'm showing you like the TikTok brain rot reaction thing, bro. It's like you're like Zephyr. This one, how about this?
I feel like you're kind of like that guy that goes around in the stores and he has like that binder full of like creepy photos that are laminated in a binder. And he just points to them and shows them to people just silently, never says anything. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's nice, that's nice." And he just keeps flipping to like heinous pictures of like crazy looking backroom memes and stuff and pointing to them and making them look at them.
Well, I mean, like, you know, I feel like some people like it. I know that there's people out there who get me. Y'all get me, right? Some of y'all do at least, right? Like just a few. I'm not asking for a lot. It's just a few people. Y'all got to get me. Like this. Like look at this. That's cool. I think that's neat. Like I'm into industry and industrial related things, and trains are industrial, so I like them for the large part. I like them a great deal. Like this one. The E5. I like that. It's cool looking. It looks clean. Stainless steel. Burlington and Quincy. It's not a bad one. Or the Burlington route.
How does everybody
Anyway,
know exactly what guy I was talking about? The guy going around showing people the creepy pasta memes and the binder. Like, how does everybody know that? Talking about, yeah, that guy's cool. It's like this guy's now like internet famous now. I thought he was just like some random dude posting a random video.
but dude, you know, the one that I always remember, dude, is the Dolphin Man picture that he's showing everyone. You know the one. This
Oh, you've
one.
seen the guy too?
Yeah, yeah. He shows that
Oh,
picture.
damn, you've seen him. Damn, everybody knows who he is. I thought he was just somebody small.
Dude, and everyone always looks at him like he's like possibly about to snap and just end them, like whenever he's doing it. It's that unsettling. Like if I saw that, I'd be like, that's funny, man. That's pretty funny. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Honestly, if I saw him, I just had to be straight up honest and be like, yo, that shit's whack. I don't know what you're showing me here, but that's whack. But anyways, jumping into our next one, this one goes to Kyle Padell, who puts in a 5 and said, Fort Worth, Texas has a big train show. If you choose Dallas by some chance, nice show, enforcers.
And thank you for the support. And I did hear about the major show at Fort Worth before, and I got to thank you for sharing that with us because it is something that I am quite adamant about. I like that, and so I thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, Kyle put in a 2 and said, sorry, Matt. And thank you for that, Kyle. I do appreciate the sorry, of course, because I need all the sorries I can get after this momentary backroom meme showing session here with the trains. But thank you for that. And we also have a $10 super chat from Epic Trains Canada. And they said, what do you think of the CN, Canadian National GMD1 locomotive? I like the Capola. Crayola. Which gives the driver a 360 view. It worked the branch lines in Manitoba and Saskatchewan until they were abandoned in the 90s.
Thank you for the support, Epic Trains Canada, and you're living up to your namesake right now. I think these things are pretty neat because they remind me, in a way, of a Canadian version of the Alco RS1. And I like the Alco style. I've given them. I don't know if they had this name for them out there, but I call them choppers because of the way their engines chop. They have like this neat little sound to them, and I really like them. But honestly, out of all of the RS models, my favorite is the RS3. I think this was just peak Alco. It actually showed in the sales records that this was peak Alco here. But
yeah, peak Alco. Really, this reminds me of like peak Audi. You know, like the RS3 was also a car. It is a car that Audi makes. It's their higher end sport model. It's the A3, but it's the track version, the RS3. I believe this is a unique type. I think this is a 3-cylinder or something like that. I can't remember for certain. Maybe a 5-cylinder, 3-cylinder, some weird cylinder numbering like that. But this thing here is pretty cool, actually. It's actually pretty neat. It kind of resembles almost like a Volkswagen Jetta, but it has a better front end on it and better lines on the side. But I kind of like this thing. It sounds good, and it's really fast. It's one of the fastest little accelerating cars you'll see of the size.
it is. How in the hell does a 3 or a 5-cylinder work?
Let me pull that up to make sure I'm right. Let's see. Engine. It's a 5-cylinder. I knew it was an odd cylinder because it's strange. It's an odd mounting of the engine. But before I started saying that, let's see here. Engine type. It's a 5-cylinder. And the interesting thing about 5 cylinders that I do know about them is they have a very unique exhaust sound, which makes them sound pretty cool. It kind of has like a burbling sound to it a little bit, but it's an interesting like mounted engine. I can't find the information right off the bat, but it's I think it's an inline 5 if I'm not mistaken. So inline 5-cylinder. It's not a V, it's an
Oh.
inline.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, that'd be weird if it was like a V shaped like 5 cylinder. I was like, I don't even know how that really would work. An inline would make sense. An inline would make sense, folks, wouldn't it? But beyond that, I do think these things are pretty cool for that reason. I don't really know a lot about Canadian National, and honestly, the closest I get to knowing about Canadian National is getting some model rail cars that have Canadian National on the side because I like their worm style logo. It reminds me a lot of the NASA logo, but for a railroad. And I also like their paint job isn't bad either. I think their paint job is actually pretty neat. But still, I think these things are neat. They remind me a lot of a Canadian Alco, or really a Canadian Alco RS1. And so I think they're cool. I like these style. But there's these ones that kind of also remind me of this, which is the Genset locomotives, which I don't like them. Let me see if I can find the Genset, the ones that I'm thinking of. It's these right here. Like it's a return back to like that Alco kind of a style, but they're short hood forward, not long hood forward. Actually, this appears to be short hood forward as well, but it still kind of looks enough like an Alco that it kind of works, and it also has kind of like that retro style to it. These have a modern style, but have returned back to pretty much that Alco style road switcher design. I don't really like them too much for that reason. So I'm not really a big fan of these like Genset style whack job things. But this I'm a fan of, and that I'm a fan of. And also Quantum Fire's like, they look the same. Hey, don't be racist. I'm just kidding, but they all kind of do look the same, but it's kind of the nuanced differences in them that really set them apart. Like this one, you cannot deny it does look different, and the windows on that are too tall. They look dumb. I just don't like that thing. And they're already throwing those out because they did terribly. It was some sort of a hybrid power pack where they had like batteries and diesel electric, and it didn't work. It didn't really produce a lot of power, and also they were prone to a decent amount of failures and were in the shop often getting repaired. So they were costing the railroad a lot of money. So Union Pacific and I think a whole bunch of other railroads that got these things in smaller numbers have just been tossing them out, and they're on like dead yards, some places just rotting away at this point. But anyways,
Well, it's better than this. Have you seen that new Slate truck that's coming out?
I think we brought this up before, and they were really cheap. Yeah, I have seen this thing. We brought it up before on stream.
Yeah, these little Slate trucks right here. I think Jeff Bezos might be an investor in this thing right here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. The side panels are actually, from what I've heard, made out of plastic because they're easier to mold. You don't have to do all that shaping that you do with metal, so it makes it cheaper. Also, it has I think 150-mile range or something like that. It's gonna be pretty inexpensive for a vehicle, and it looks like a lot of people are signing up to catch a few of them. Real simple on the interior though, like basically nothing. They have like a phone mount in the dash right there. Actually, to show you, there's no like center screen. You put your phone in the phone mount, and it controls the truck, like all the controls and stuff like that. The only controls in the dash are the air conditioning, it looks like. Also, return back to roll up and roll down windows, too, which is kind of fascinating. Hadn't seen that in a very long time. You can option, I think, electric windows on this thing, but it doesn't come standard with it. But it's a very unique little thing right here. Honestly, it's a sign of the times, in my opinion, because some people were like hailing this as like some type of like revolution of a vehicle right here. To me, it indicates a bad economy, because if something like this is really, really popular because it's really cheap and it's really, honestly, it looks like it's not very well, like good quality, in my opinion. It's probably good quality for the materials they're using, but it's not good quality because who the hell wants a plastic pickup truck that's like a small little midget truck like that? I don't think many people are going to want that unless you just have to have it for cost reasons. But I don't really like the idea behind it. I'm like, this is not really like a American vehicle. And the fact that we're resorting to vehicles looking this cheap and this inexpensive tells you that people must be really, really struggling.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like this thing because it's like, yeah, sure, it's cheap, But it's like the thing is, folks, in my opinion, about how the consumer economy is supposed to work is that we're supposed to constantly be getting better, not backtracking to get cheaper. This is showing that things are getting so bad and people can afford so little that they're having to whip out a bare bones car that would be considered subpar in Russia to actually have a car for people to buy these days. It's not showing a great economy, in my opinion, either. I'd have to agree with that, because think about it. You're going from cars standard these days, pretty much having electric roll down windows, which has been a standard thing in most cars for a while now. And now we're going back to a brand new car that has manual roll down, roll up windows. I mean, that's not really a bad thing. Like, it doesn't really make too much of a difference, but still, that's backtracking to cut down on costs. This whole thing pretty much is we're reverting back to about 40 years ago in car technology for the large part and making it as minimalist as possible to make it as cheap as possible, but that isn't showing a good economy, because if it was a good economy, we would be seeing that the car is slightly cheaper and provides even more amenities than current cars. That would be a good economy.
And also another thing is, like, I saw someone saying that would be a good weekend gardener. I think it was Tom Exman that said that, and it would be. Like, this is a neat little truck here, like for a weekend work type vehicle. Like if you want to use it to maintain your property or something like that. But as a daily driver, it's really like the American version of a Russian Lada, if you ask me. It's and no offense, like hopefully people don't take this offensively, but it's kind of like the poor man's new car. And I get it. If you're not making a whole lot of income, you need a vehicle. But at the same time, though, the fact that so many people, like such a wide audience, is interested in this across many different income brackets, that's kind of a little bit concerning to see that, in my opinion, at least. And also, I'm not sure of the exact cost of this thing, but some people are saying it's going to be about $25,000. Honestly, it seems overpriced at $25,000. Like I could see maybe 15. This thing's like a toy truck. Basically, and people are acting like 25,000 or whatever is going to be a good price, but that's a little steep.
I do like, though, that it is starting to get away from the monster Sherman tank-sized super pickups that have become like the pavement princesses of the highways. I like that it's getting back towards a traditional sized pickup, like this older Ford from about the 90s. Like, I like that. But
That Ranger right there is not from the 90s. That's like I think 2009.
Man, its styling looks like it's from the 90s, honestly.
Hey, Ford has a truck called the Maverick, which most people have probably never heard of it. But it's a truck that kind of looks like the Slate, and it's a very small one. Like, you can pull up a picture of it here real quick. There it is. This is a very unusual little truck right here. It's also kind of the economy truck market, which I think that Slate company is trying to go for. I've seen a couple of these on the road, and every time I see them, I'm like, what the hell is that? Now I look at them like, okay, a Ford Maverick, that's what that is. I've never seen them at dealerships, but I see them on the road occasionally. It seems to be like a company truck type deal. Like I see yeah, maybe so. I see like pest companies driving around with their wrap all over it and stuff, but I don't really see normal people driving them. It's just like companies.
But this thing kind of looks like a Nissan with like the body style.
Which type of Nissan?
Let me see. Let me go pull one up. A Nissan pickup. I wouldn't know the exact type, but let me go see if I can find one, like an older one.
I don't think it looks like a Nissan, to be honest with you. That's a Titan.
Let's see. There was an older one, man, that we rode in when we were little. If you remember the type I'm talking about, and it kind of
was a Titan.
Okay, so that was an older Titan. Let's see, Nissan Titan from like 2000. Let's just go take a look at that. I mean, kind of.
Yeah, not really.
Not
this
really.
This is a full-size truck, and the other one's like a small size. It's not even a mid-size. It's like a small-size truck.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, you're right. Like, for some reason in my mind, it looked like a Nissan, but looking at it in reality, not so much. But that, I don't know. That doesn't actually look that good now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's not that good.
Yeah. Honestly, man, what's crazy though is that like the new cars that are coming out these days have less amenities. They generally look worse, and they're also way more expensive. It's like, honestly, what they're doing is they're pretty much forcing you, if you want to have a nice car, to go get an old used car.
Yeah, and then those are expensive too. The used market's not cheap like it used to be anymore. Like the smart way to buy a car back in the day was to go get a certified used vehicle that came with an extended warranty on it. That was a smart way to buy cars. And some people insist on going and buying new cars, but really that's not financially smart at all. You can get a very nice used car with a nice warranty on it, and you're in much better shape than buying new, in my opinion. But now you really can't do that anymore. You're better off buying new these days because the used car price is so high. You're basically just a few grand off from buying a new one at that point.
It's a really messed up kind of an economic situation with that, and it will be ignored, and no one will do anything about it. So with that, on that sad note, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Ryan Kiernan, who said, which nation would you guys consider to be the most powerful and capable dark horse in regard to cause and effect on the world stage?
I would say, on the world stage, if we're speaking about a global level, it would be the United States of America, because we're really the only ones who can do that. China can't, Russia can't, no one can. They can change things in their region, and they can kind of be one of the ebb and flow movers on a regional level, but nobody right now, except for the U.S., even now, can do anything on an international level like that. So I would have to say, by default, it's the United States, because they actually are the only country that actually can do that with ease, or really at all. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this is actually our last question of the night because I only have one left.
Oh, wow. With that, we got to all the live chats tonight, folks. Can y'all believe that? With that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who's the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And this one goes to Canada is Sovereign, who said Ukraine attacks Russia war-making places and Russia attacks civilians. Is it because no one reports Russia attacks correctly? Russia lacks intel need to attack Ukraine war-making facilities, or is it Russia's focus to purposely target civilians?
It seems as though it's Russia's purpose to target civilians because they go out of their way to do it. They will hit an apartment building that's clearly a residential apartment building on its upper levels, which would not be used for military purposes, simply for the fact of killing people. They will hit town squares simply for the fact of killing people. It has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence because anyone could see that a town square is a town square not being used for military purposes, and instead you would target an industrial concern or a factory elsewhere. But they go out of their way to attack areas where there would be high concentrations of civilians. So it makes it quite clear that they are more so targeting civilians as largely acts of terror than attempting to strike military targets and war industries with faulty intel. But with that, I hope that does address that question the best I can. And we've reached the end of tonight's stream. And boy howdy, what a stream it was. While it is Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all have fun this weekend, and also YouTube didn't push out notifications to about half the audience apparently, we did have a peak viewership of 7.6 thousand people here tonight, and 60,000 people have watched this show since it started. While it's not our biggest night in recent weeks or months, we are entirely honored and appreciative to have had all of y'all here. We thank everyone who's watched tonight, and we thank everyone who's also gone out of their way to support the channel when y'all don't have to, because y'all are amazing folks through and through, whether y'all support or not, and help this channel to keep on running and give us a whole bunch of people in the thousands to be able to tell the news to every single night. And so with that, we are going to be seeing y'all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And thank you all once again for joining us once again on this another night of breaking war news. And we will see every single one of you tomorrow on Saturday. It's already Saturday in our time, but tomorrow for everybody else for another day of war news streaming at 10 and also another midday short war video if there is enough news to cover. And once again, thank you all for joining us again tonight. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Hero Slava, get some rest and good night.